Chapter 160. Just as the young man hid himself, 3 streaks of light flew over from the sky and landed at the bottom of the cliff. 3 cultivators wearing Shui Yang Pavilion's robes appeared, and their cultivations were at the 8th or 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. The only man among them went forward to investigate and said to the 2 women, "Senior sisters, it seems like this kid is nearby. He suffered a blow from both of you, so he can't have gone far. I just don't know where he is hiding." The woman in white on the left snorted coldly and said, "Junior brother Chiu, don't forget that this Liao guy is an alchemist. How could he be lacking in good healing pills? Junior sister Zhong and I might have injured him, but we still have to be careful of his counterattack." Junior brother Chiu hurriedly smiled apologetically and said, "Senior sister, he is right. No matter what, the heart-dissolving pill in this kid's hands, my Shui Yang Pavilion must." Junior brother Chiu had just finished speaking when he felt a cold gaze on him from the right. Junior brother Chiu immediately realized that he had said the wrong thing again and shut his mouth in embarrassment. Junior martial sister Zhong's lips twitched. Senior martial sister, he seemed to have sensed something as she looked in the direction where Lu Ping was hiding. She then said, "Since he's not here, that Liao fellow can't have gone far. Let's wait around here and investigate." Not long after the 3 of them left, there was a commotion behind Lu Ping. The young man who was hiding there had already walked over. Lu Ping cursed inwardly for being stupid. Those 3 were obviously putting on an act and couldn't have gone far. However, Lu Ping's intuition told him that he had been discovered. The 3 of them must have mistaken him for this young man. If this young man came out now, he could clarify the truth. If the 3 of them didn't want to kill him, then Lu Ping wouldn't be implicated. Obviously, this was Lu Ping's wishful thinking. Just as the young man looked in the direction where Lu Ping was hiding and hesitated whether to expose Lu Ping's whereabouts, a loud laugh rang out. The 2 women and 1 man from the Shui Yang Pavilion had returned. The young man's complexion changed, and a burst of annoyance appeared on his face. He knew that he had been fooled. He hurriedly took out a small cauldron, and a flame flickered in and out of the mouth of the small cauldron. The surrounding temperature rose rapidly. Although the flame inside the small cauldron wasn't a world spirit fire, it was still quite extraordinary. Junior brother Chiu sneered and said, "Sure enough, it's not out of the 2 senior sisters' expectations. This brat is really hiding here. Liao Hu, you weren't a match for the 2 senior sisters in the first place, and it's even more impossible for you to escape after being heavily injured. Quickly hand over the heart-dissolving pill's medicinal formula. If you agree to be my Mistwater Pavilion's alchemist, then perhaps the 2 senior sisters might spare your life." The young man called Liao who sneered and said, "Chou Liming, don't you dare assume the might of a tiger. If I were to hand over the heart-dissolving pill's medicinal formula to all of you, then all of you would probably turn hostile and kill me right away. Your Mistwater Pavilion wouldn't offend my Liao clan for the sake of a heart-dissolving pill's medicinal formula." Chou Liming's face turned red after being scolded by Liao Hu for assuming the might of a tiger. He flipped his hand and threw out a saber with a ghost's head. The saber grew to 3 feet long in the air, and he was about to slash at Liao Hu. Senior sister, he stretched out her hand to stop Chou Liming. She turned her head towards the direction where Lu Ping was hiding and said, "I wonder which fellow Daoist is resting here. The Mistwater Pavilions he listen and the 2 junior sisters and junior brothers are handling some miscellaneous matters here. If they have disturbed you, please forgive us." Lu Ping sighed helplessly. His concealment technique was really bad. He waved his hand to remove the talismans on his body, and Lu Ping revealed himself. He coughed and said, "I originally didn't want to, so it's a 3rd layer blood condensation realm minor repairs. Your courage isn't bad. You dare to enter the 7 stars grotto heaven with such a low cultivation? You really don't know the meaning of death." When Chou Liming saw that the person hiding here was actually a 3rd layer blood condensation realm red-faced cultivator, he immediately sneered. Lu Ping's expression changed. This Chou Liming's mouth was really stinky. Lu Ping didn't say anything else and quietly waited for the Mistwater Pavilion to deal with the situation in front of him. Chou Liming turned to He Listen and said with a flattering smile, "Since it's just a 3rd layer blood condensation realm kid, why bother with him, senior sister? Just finish him off and get the heart-dissolving pill as soon as possible. He listened, didn't express her opinion. She flicked her sleeves and 2 faint white mist gushed out from her long sleeves. One white mist turned into a goshawk, while the other turned into a cloud rabbit. The goshawk went straight for Liao Hu's head, while the cloud rabbit's hind legs kicked towards Liao Hu's abdomen. Clearly, it agreed with Qiu Liming's words. Just as he listened made her move, Qiu Liming was already walking towards Lu Ping with a sinister smile on his face. He swung his huge ghost-head saber towards Lu Ping's head. From Qiu Liming's point of view, killing a third-layer blood condensation realm minor repairs warrior was a piece of cake. Just as Qiu Liming was about to turn around and help He Listen attack Liao Hu, junior sister Zhong, who had been standing at the side without saying a word, suddenly shouted, "Careful." Qiu Liming heard a poochie sound behind him. The ghost-head saber that was connected to his divine sense seemed to have sunk into mud. A violent killing intent rushed towards Qiu Liming's back. Qiu Liming turned pale with fright. He leaped forward, only to hear a loud bang, followed by a stabbing pain in his buttocks. When he turned around to look, he saw that a piece of fat about 2 kilograms had already flown away. Only one of his buttocks was left. Qiu Liming was howling in pain as he tried to stop the bleeding. When Lu Ping saw He Listen attacking Liao Hu, it was obvious that he agreed with Qiu Liming's words. Lu Ping was infuriated. Qiu Liming had carelessly used a high-grade saber mystic instrument to strike him once before turning around and leaving. Since Qiu Liming was so arrogant, Lu Ping naturally wouldn't be polite. After blocking the ghost-head saber with cloudy sky, his soaring wing sword attacked Qiu Liming's back. Fortunately, junior sister Zhong was still vigilant. As she warned Qiu Liming, she took out a bronze mirror and placed it behind Qiu Liming. Lu Ping's soaring wing sword was blocked by the bronze mirror, but the female sword went around it. However, in the blink of an eye, there was no time to adjust and it could only cut off a large piece of Qiu Liming's fat. Qiu Liming temporarily stabilized the wound on his buttocks, but the waves of excruciating pain made him grimace. He remembered that he had lost half of his buttocks and that he would be a laughingstock in the future. Qiu Liming was so ashamed that he howled like a ghost and rushed forward, slashing at Lu Ping like a storm. Junior sister Zhong frowned when she saw Qiu Liming blocking her own attack. She looked at the red-faced 6th-layer blood condensation cultivator in front of her. She thought that she only managed to injure Qiu Liming by surprise. Qiu Liming obviously wouldn't make the same mistake again. Hence, she turned around and ran towards the battle between He Listen and Liao Hu. Liao Hu had obviously eaten some medicinal pills that increased his arcane energy, temporarily suppressing his injury. The small cauldron hovered above his head, emitting a greenish-red barrier of light, blocking all of He Listen's attacks. At the same time, a flame spewed out from the small cauldron, and under Liao Hu's control, it clashed with He Listen's eagle and cloud rabbit. Seeing that junior sister Zhong was about to launch a pincer attack, Liao Hu's expression changed. He turned to Lu Ping and shouted, "Big brother, I'm sorry for implicating you today. Big brother, if you have the chance, run away as soon as possible. I'll try my best to delay these 3 for a while." Qiu Liming shouted, "Run? Where do you think you're going? Today, all of you will die here." He Listen and junior sister Zhong, who were attacking Liao Hu from both sides, also increased their attacks. Liao Hu suddenly felt powerless. Lu Ping snorted coldly. His soaring wings dual swords forced the demon-headed broadsword into a corner. Suddenly, a magnificent sword light flashed from Lu Ping's hand, and 64 sword lights rushed towards Qiu Liming one after another. Qiu Liming cried out in fear. The high-grade defensive magic tool in front of him was torn apart like a piece of paper. This guy was worthy of being a disciple of a major North Sea sect. At this critical moment, he slapped 2 talismans on his protective aura shield, which turned golden and weakened most of the sword lights. Qiu Liming quickly retreated, but Lu Ping's Qinghan sword still left 3 wounds on his chest and abdomen. Qiu Liming was already like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. Ignoring the injuries on his body, he retreated towards He Listen and junior sister Zhong. Lu Ping's killing intent rose. He flicked his finger, and 2 divine needles of jade blood silently flew towards Qiu Liming. Qiu Liming fled hastily, and when he noticed something unusual behind him, the 2 divine needles of jade blood had already pierced through Qiu Liming's body one after the other. Lu Ping's sudden and ruthless killing of Qiu Liming caused the 2 young women of the Mistwater Pavilion to be shocked, and the 2 of them broke away from the battle with Liao Hu and retreated to the side. Liao Hu was slightly at a loss for what to do from Lu Ping's swift actions, and after a short moment, he still stood by Lu Ping's side and said, "Big brother, little brother has offended you earlier. But this Mistwater Pavilion's woman surnamed, he is one of the 18 North Sea generals, and her ability is rather extraordinary. If it wasn't for her being worried that little brother has a few abilities that can take me down with him, little brother would have become a ghost under her blade since long ago." Lu Ping noticed that even though Liao Hu was standing by his side, Liao Hu still maintained a considerable distance. Obviously, Liao Hu wasn't sure if Lu Ping was a friend or foe. Lu Ping paid no attention to Liao Hu and instead said to the 2 young women of the Mistwater Pavilion, "Do you still want to silence him?" When He Listen heard Lu Ping's tone, it was obviously Qiu Liming's words from before that had infuriated him, and she cursed Qiu Liming in her heart for being unable to accomplish anything but good at spoiling things, and he deserved to die. Yet she'd forgotten that it was precisely because she'd made the first move that was equivalent to tacitly approving of Qiu Liming's words. He Listen knew that it was already impossible to kill Liao Hu now. Even though she had a few trump cards in her possession, and she felt that she would surely be able to kill the 2 of them once she utilized them, but the 7-star skies was filled with danger, and she still had other assignments to complete. So these few trump cards were only used to save her life in the end. Moreover, He Listen didn't dare guarantee that the 2 people before her didn't have any trump cards in their possession. He Listen moved forward and said, "Since you've interfered, then the matter today will end here. May I know how I address you? My sect's junior brother Qiu perished at your hands, and when we meet in the future, my Mistwater Pavilion will surely take revenge." Lu Ping sneered and said, "Mistwater Pavilion, what a great reputation." He Listen didn't hope that Lu Ping would be able to leave behind his name, and when she saw Lu Ping didn't continue speaking, she put away Qiu Liming's corpse before leaving with junior sister Zhong. Liao Hu couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when he saw the 2 young women of the Mistwater Pavilion leave, and he was just about to say something when he saw Lu Ping's expression was still grim, and Lu Ping turned around and said, "Leave quickly." The auspicious cloud beneath his feet swelled up, and he didn't dare fly up into the sky and just swiftly left while sticking close to the ground. Liao Hu took a step into the auspicious cloud as well, and Lu Ping frowned as he glanced at Liao Hu. Lu Ping seemed to have understood something and didn't refuse. Chapter 161. 3 days later, beside a river in the valley, Liao Hu's weakness caused by consuming the spiritual explosion pill had recovered. Only his internal injuries still needed some time to heal. Liao Hu took out a strange jade bottle from his storage pouch and poured out a milky white pill. After swallowing it, he began to cultivate. After a while, his pale face finally began to improve. Liao Hu opened his eyes and looked at Lu Ping, who was meditating at the side. He said, "Thank you for your help, brother Lu Qi. I was able to overcome the weakness caused by consuming the spiritual explosion pill in 3 days. It seems that brother Lu Qi is also an alchemist, right?" Lu Ping still had the appearance of a red-faced burly man. He smiled and said, "As expected of the Liao clan of Golden Orange Island that is famous for their alchemy." Liao Hu waved his hand and said, "Although my Liao clan makes a living by alchemy, it is far from being famous in the North Sea. Even my father is only the only alchemist in the Liao clan. The strength of the Liao clan is still far from the strength of the alchemy pavilions of the major sects in the North Sea." Lu Ping did not argue on this issue. Instead, he asked, "I've long heard that the Liao clan has a kind of miraculous pill called the heart-dissolving pill. After consuming it, a blood condensation realm cultivator can increase their cultivation by 1 level. I wonder if it is true." Liao Hu smiled and said, "Brother Lu Qi, don't tell me that you are also interested in my heart-dissolving pill like the Shui Yang Pavilion." Lu Ping said, "It would be a lie to say that I am not interested. However, according to the rules of alchemy, this kind of unique pill will never be passed down. It is mostly passed down by word of mouth. Therefore, even if the Shui Yang Pavilion kills Brother Liao, they will not be able to obtain the pill's recipe. Looks like Brother Lu Qi really is an alchemist. That's right, the pill recipe for the dissolving heart pill is indeed not passed down. It's all recorded here. Liao Hu pointed at his own head and continued, also, alchemists have many secret arts that can prevent secret arts like soul-searching and soul-reading. Lu Ping nodded, indicating that he understood, and said, I would like to ask for a heart-dissolving pill. Is that possible? Liao Hu smiled and said, Brother Lu Qi has saved my life, so it's only right for me to repay you with a heart-dissolving pill. However, this pill has always been in short supply in my Liao clan. The most important reason for this is that the spirit herbs required to refine the blood-dissolving pill are extremely rare and only grow in a few places like the seven-star skies. Thus, it takes a very long time to gather the spirit herbs required to refine a batch of pills. This is also the reason why I entered the seven-star skies. Lu Ping nodded as if he understood something and said, Why did Brother Liao go against the cultivators from the Misty Water Pavilion again? Although the Misty Water Pavilion is a large sect in the North Sea, the Golden Orange Islands Liao clan is also a reputable force in the North Sea. Isn't the Misty Water Pavilion afraid of being criticized by the sects in the North Sea for being so overbearing? Liao Hu smiled unnaturally and said, I don't know where the Misty Water Pavilion got the news from, but they said that other than the blood-dissolving pill, our Liao clan also has a secret heart-dissolving pill that has a similar effect as the heart-dissolving pill. It can increase one's cultivation by 1 level, but the target is a core forging realm enlightened master. Lu Ping took a deep breath and said, If this news is true, then your clan will be in trouble. The heart-dissolving pill was only a blood condensation realm medicinal pill after all. If there really was a medicinal pill that could increase the cultivation of a core forging realm enlightened master out of thin air, it could be imagined that the Liao clan's Golden Orange Island would be trampled by the core forging realm enlightened masters of the North Sea in a short period of time. This kind of medicinal pill that could break the balance of power in the North Sea absolutely couldn't appear in a single force, let alone a small force. Liao Hu smiled bitterly and said, Isn't that so? This time, I entered the seven-star celestial palace alone and was surrounded by He Listen from the Misty Water Pavilion. She asked me about the heart-dissolving pill's recipe, and I naturally denied it with all my strength. However, those 3 people would rather kill the wrong person than let them go. Left with no choice, I could only fight with them and escape with heavy injuries. Brother Lu knows what happened after that. Lu Ping knew that there were many things that Liao Hu didn't explain clearly. There were many flaws and loopholes in the story, and Liao Hu was obviously hiding something. Lu Ping didn't expose him and asked, Brother Liao, what do you plan to do next? Are you going to continue gathering spiritual herbs for the heart-dissolving pill? Liao Hu nodded helplessly and said, Yes. This time, there are also a few cultivators from my Liao clan who entered the seven-star celestial palace. I have to meet up with them as soon as possible. I'm worried that they will encounter the same situation as me. Liao Hu adjusted his breathing and took out a jade tablet from his storage pouch. One side was engraved with the word Golden Orange, and the other side was engraved with the word Liao. He handed it to Lu Ping and said, Brother Lu, please accept this jade tablet. After Brother Lu leaves the seven-star celestial palace, you can use this jade tablet to go to the Golden Orange Islands Liao clan and obtain a heart-dissolving pill. However, after taking the heart-dissolving pill, Brother Lu will need to go into seclusion for a period of time to completely absorb and calm down the medicinal effects of the pill. This way, your cultivation won't skyrocket and cause your foundation to become unstable. Lu Ping accepted the jade tablet and thanked Liao Hu. Liao Hu was worried about the other disciples of the Liao clan who entered the seven-star celestial palace, so he took his leave. After talking with Liao Hu for the past few days, Lu Ping found out that after the opening of the seven-star celestial palace, the number of human and demon cultivators who entered the seven-star celestial palace far exceeded the previous times. Although there were many spiritual herbs in the seven-star celestial palace, and the cultivators who died in the seven-star celestial palace in the past also left behind many treasures, there shouldn't be so many cultivators in the seven-star celestial palace. After all, in order to pass through the 7-star celestial palace, one must have a talisman made by the Dharma adept Laozu, and each talisman could only protect 3 to 5 people passing through the 7-star celestial palace. Unless it was necessary, why would Laozu's talismans be given to blood condensation juniors? Those were treasures that even enlightened masters coveted. On this day, Lu Ping had just climbed over a huge mountain when suddenly, a powerful aura surged from the opposite side of the mountain. The spiritual energy in the surroundings gathered towards the middle of the mountain, and the weather within a radius of a mile suddenly changed. First, a strong wind blew, snapping all kinds of vegetation. Then, the surrounding water vapor gathered towards the middle of the mountain, forming a thick dark cloud. Not long after, lightning flashed and thunder roared. Hail and heavy rain poured down, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a blizzard. The rainwater on the ground turned the entire mountain into an ice mountain, shining brightly. An invisible force pressed towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping was very familiar with this kind of aura. It was the divine sense of a core-forging enlightened master that could cause such an effect. Ha ha ha. After cultivating for more than 200 years, I've finally formed a golden core. The middle of the mountain suddenly burst open, revealing a big hole. An old man in his 50s with a long beard floated in the air, looking up to the sky and laughing. He looked at Lu Ping, who was standing on the opposite side of the mountain, as if he wanted to say something, but a white light had already surrounded the old man. After the white light burst, the old man's figure disappeared from the air. Lu Ping knew that after the old man broke through to the core forging stage, his magic power had skyrocketed and exceeded the limit of the 7-star sky, so he was teleported out of the 7-star sky. Only a moment had passed since the old man broke through to the core forging stage. Lu Ping suddenly thought of something and quickly ran towards the cave where the old man had gone into seclusion. Chapter 162. The density of the spiritual energy in the 7-star skies was equivalent to a large spirit vein. However, in the past tens of thousands of years, no one had been able to find the spirit vein in the 7-star skies. However, every time the 7-star skies opened, it was a rare opportunity for itinerant cultivators who were at the peak of the blood condensation realm and about to step into the core forging realm, as well as cultivators from the smaller forces in the North Sea. Unfortunately, the 7-star skies only opened for 3 months each time. Even so, it still attracted a large number of cultivators. Therefore, every time the 7-star skies closed, a new batch of core forging enlightened masters would be born in the North Sea. Lu Ping didn't expect to witness the birth of a core forging enlightened master. What made Lu Ping even happier was that this also brought him an opportunity. Every time a cultivator had a breakthrough in their cultivation, the spiritual energy whirlpool produced by the breakthrough would often gather a large amount of spiritual energy from heaven and earth. This spiritual energy was not only used to support the cultivator's breakthrough, but it was also used to strengthen the cultivator's foundation after the breakthrough. However, the special condition of the 7-star skies was that the moment the cultivator broke through to the core forging realm, they would be teleported back to the North Sea. This caused the spiritual energy gathered to be useless and could only slowly dissipate. Lu Ping wanted to make use of this period of time before the spiritual energy dissipated to cultivate. Lu Ping went to the cave on the opposite side of the mountain. He took out an array disc and placed it in the middle of the cave. Then, he placed 8 small flags on the ground according to their positions. He condensed a technique, and the cave on the mountainside disappeared. Lu Ping opened the spirit beast pouch and saw that the blue phoenix and the green sea snake were still asleep. Fortunately, the blue phoenix's aura had stabilized, so it should wake up soon. Without a choice, Lu Ping could only bring Dabao and Dagui out again and warned them to guard the cave. Lu Ping sat on the high-grade spirit-gathering praying mat and swallowed a mid-blood condensation blood spirit pellet. Then, he held a mid-grade spirit stone in each hand and circulated the North Sea Wave listening scripture with all his might. Lu Ping's blood flowed according to the North Sea Wave listening technique. It was like the waves of the sea rising and falling in Lu Ping's body. A psychic jade pendant on Lu Ping's waist emitted a cloud of purple mist that enveloped Lu Ping. The spiritual energy in the cave was as dense as a giant spirit vein, like a moth flying into a flame. It gathered towards Lu Ping and was absorbed bit by Lu Ping. Along with his blood, the spiritual energy returned to his heart and gathered into the 6 condensed blood pearls. After all, Lu Ping wasn't a core-forging enlightened master. He couldn't prevent the spiritual energy from dispersing and convert it all into cultivation. 3 days later, the spiritual energy in the cave finally became the same as the outside world. Lu Ping woke up from his cultivation and felt the rich arcane energy in his body seeping into his flesh and blood. After cleansing his flesh and blood, the remaining arcane energy dispersed from all parts of his body, causing Lu Ping's entire body to be enveloped by essence Qi wolf smoke. This was the true peak of the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm. Lu Ping took out a jade crystal box from his storage ring. There were 7 large condensed blood pearls inside. These were the pearls Lu Ping had obtained after killing the primordial crocodile. Lu Ping had originally planned to break through to the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm in one go. However, Dabao had already warned Lu Ping twice that this place had already attracted the attention of others. In the past 3 days, Dabao had seen more than 3 groups of human and demonic cultivators roaming the area. Lu Ping's expression was solemn. After putting Dabao into the spirit beast pouch, he used his powerful divine sense to scan the surroundings of the cave. After confirming that no one was watching, he abruptly opened the sealed cave and destroyed the illusion array. The magic cloud flew close to the ground and flew in a certain direction. Lu Ping's sudden appearance immediately attracted the attention of the nearby cultivators who had rushed over to investigate. A group of 5 cultivators, led by the water mist pavilion's He Listen, who Lu Ping had met before, chased after Lu Ping. Another group of cultivators, which Lu Ping couldn't identify, was about 7 or 8 people. They rushed over from the direction Lu Ping was running in, intending to intercept Lu Ping halfway. The third group of cultivators was the closest to Lu Ping, and they had the opportunity to stop Lu Ping. However, the leader of the group was a young man dressed in a golden brocade robe. He watched with interest as Lu Ping escaped from their side. He didn't make a move to stop Lu Ping. When Lu Ping flew past them, he discovered that the 7 or 8 cultivators behind the young man were all late blood condensation realm demonic cultivators who were half-step into the blood condensation realm. However, there wasn't a single trace of demonic cultivator on the young man's body. If it wasn't for the fact that Lu Ping knew that the 7-star sky didn't accept core forging realm cultivators, Lu Ping would definitely think that the young man was a core forging realm demonic cultivator. Lu Ping's hair stood on end when he saw the young man's deep gaze. He didn't dare to stop for even a second. He controlled the magic cloud circle with all his might. Just as he was about to shake off the 2 groups of people chasing after him, the young man suddenly waved his hand. A sword light flashed and chased after Lu Ping. The moment the sword light shot out, it transformed. One sword light split into 2, then 4, then 8. By the time the total number of sword lights reached 128, the sword light had already surpassed the cultivators from Shui Yang Pavilion and the other 2 groups of cultivators chasing after Lu Ping. When there were 512 sword lights, the sword light finally stopped increasing. However, more than 500 sword lights had already caught up to Lu Ping. At this moment, Lu Ping felt as though he had fallen into a sea of swords and encountered a torrential rain of swords. Complex sword practice. This was an expert who had reached the sword intent realm. Lu Ping bellowed. On the brink of life and death, Lu Ping erupted with all his strength to fight for his life. The soaring wing swords danced in unison, each sending out 64 sword rays to form 2 sword light mirrors in front of Lu Ping. Then, a series of metallic clanging noises rang out. The soaring wing swords wailed in pain and shattered into dozens of pieces that fell to the ground. Lu Ping had refined the soaring wing sword for the longest time. When the soaring wing sword was shattered, Lu Ping felt a sharp pain in his divine sense. His chest felt as though it had received a heavy blow. The magic power in his body was insufficient. There was a sweet taste in his throat that was forcefully suppressed by Lu Ping. Lu Ping did not have the time to check his wounds. He swung the azure sword and another 64 cyan-colored sword lights spread out. In the face of this casual attack from the young master in embroidered garments, the incomparably majestic azure sword became like a firefly within the bright moon. In the blink of an eye, it was engulfed by the sea of swords. Thankfully, the azure sword was a top-grade magic artifact and it was not damaged. A wave of water surged forward to collide against the sea of swords. Lu Ping directed the crystal bowl to create 3 huge waves in a row. However, they were all suppressed by the sea of swords. The sea of swords did not give Lu Ping any more time. The whistling sword rain dispersed the cloudy sky above Lu Ping's head and cut the clothes on Lu Ping's body, revealing the golden yellow inner armor. The surface of the inner armor was immediately covered with starry marks. However, in the end, it did not penetrate the last layer of protection. However, how could a swordsmanship at the level of sword intent be so easily blocked? Lu Ping could no longer endure the mouthful of blood. The auspicious cloud was immediately dyed blood red. Lu Ping relied on the impact of the sea of swords to turn this mouthful of blood into the blood escape technique. The auspicious cloud drew a bright red bloodlight in the sky and disappeared among the mountains. The young master in embroidered garments exclaimed, "You can actually take a sword from this young master and not die. It's rare." A burly man with a long nose behind him said in a low and muffled voice, "Young master, do you want your subordinates to chase after him and end him?" The young master in embroidered garments shook his head and said, "No need. We still have important matters to attend to. This person is rather interesting. Leave him for this young master to practice his swordsmanship in the future." The people of the Water Mist Pavilion had seen that Lu Ping had been seriously injured by the young master in embroidered garments. They were originally afraid of the strength of the young master in embroidered garments. However, they saw that the young master in embroidered garments had turned around and swaggered away with a group of demon cultivators. He Listen was overjoyed. She secretly thought that Lu Ping had already been seriously injured by the young master in embroidered garments. Even if he used the blood escape technique to escape, he wouldn't have any spare strength to escape after he landed. As long as she could capture this person, not only would she be able to take revenge for her junior brother Chiu Liming, but she might also be able to find out the whereabouts of that silly boy from the Liao clan. In this way, she would have the opportunity to obtain the recipe of the heart-dissolving pill. Once she presented the recipe to the sect, she would certainly receive a step more attention from the sect. Advancing to the core forging stage would be a cinch. He Listen and the others quickly found the spot where Lu Ping had landed after using the blood escape technique. The 5 of them spread out and searched for traces of Lu Ping. After a short while, when the 5 of them gathered together again, no one had found any traces of Lu Ping. The 5 of them looked at each other in dismay. He Listen sighed and said, "Forget it. That red-faced cultivator is very strange. He was able to kill junior brother Chiu Liming with his 6th-layer blood condensation realm cultivation. Who knows if he has some kind of life-saving secret technique?" Currently, the 7-Star Skies is a chaotic place. Not only did Xianling sect and Junling sect send their experts to fight for the few treasures that were left behind in the 7-Star Skies, but the Overflowing Oceans sect is also eager to see the world plunged into chaos. The war between the demon race and the human race is on the verge of breaking out. We should first complete the few missions that our sect has assigned to us. The other 4 nodded in agreement. Junior Sister Zhong asked, "Senior Sister, do you know what treasure Zhenling and Xianling sect are fighting for? Is our Shui Yang Pavilion just going to sit back and watch them fight?" He Listen replied, "Of course not. In fact, our sect seniors have told us that we can choose the right time to intervene in the battle between the 2 sects and reap the benefits. However, our priority right now is to find that Liao family brat and get our hands on the heart-dissolving pill. The other Liao family disciples that entered the 7-Star Skies are mostly collateral relatives. It's impossible for them to obtain this pill recipe." Junior Sister Zhong thought for a moment and said, "If that's the case, why don't we head straight to the Golden Fallen Canyon? According to our sect's information, every time the 7-Star Skies opens, the Liao family's cultivators will go to the Golden Fallen Canyon to collect spiritual herbs. I think it's because there are rare spiritual herbs that can be used to refine the heart-dissolving pill there." He Listen nodded. "That's right. However, the Golden Fallen Canyon doesn't have any sentient demonic beasts or poisonous beasts. Rumor has it that 300 years ago, the Liao family's patriarch, Liao, whose grandfather, alchemy grandmaster Liao Ding, suppressed his core forging stage cultivation and went deep into the Golden Fallen Canyon. However, he didn't even have time to break the seal before he fell into the canyon. This almost caused the Liao family to decline. Therefore, we must be extremely careful when we enter the Golden Fallen Canyon. When everyone heard that even a core forging enlightened master had fallen in the canyon, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Seeing everyone's fear, he listened, smiled and said, "What's there to be afraid of? The Golden Fallen Canyon isn't the only dangerous place in the Seven-Star Skies. Since the opening of the Seven-Star Skies, many enlightened masters have gone missing and died in different places. Otherwise, where would the treasures that Zhenling and Xianling sect fight for come from?" Chapter 163. After he listened and the rest left, the ground where the people from Shuai-Yang Pavilion were standing suddenly surged upwards. Lu Ping emerged from the ground riding a fat rat covered in dust. Lu Ping cast the dust sweep spell to clear away the dust on his body. Then, he patted Dabao, who had exhausted all his arcane energy and was lying on his back. "Dabao, is this Earth Escape spell your innate skill after entering the blood condensation realm? Not bad, you've done a great service this time. When we get back, I'll concoct a batch of pills for you as a reward." Dabao couldn't even use the technique to shrink his body anymore. If it wasn't for Lu Ping using his own energy to help Dabao use the Earth Escape technique, Dabao wouldn't have been able to bring Lu Ping into the ground. Lu Ping tossed a spiritual energy replenishing medicinal pellet to Dabao and kept it in the spirit beast pouch to recuperate. Then, he chose a direction and arrived at the foot of an inconspicuous hill a few dozen miles away. Using the Qinghan sword, he opened up a secret chamber in the belly of the hill. After setting up the defenses, he released Lu Dagui from the chamber and eagerly began his recuperation. This experience was a huge blow to Lu Ping. Ever since Lu Ping entered the mid-stage of the blood condensation realm, he had never lost a single battle against late-stage blood condensation realm cultivators. Even if he didn't win, he could still retreat easily. Although Lu Ping knew that the late-stage blood condensation realm cultivators he defeated were weak compared to other cultivators in the same realm, like Liu Ziyuan, who was one of the 18 generals of the North Sea, Lu Ping didn't think he was a match for them. But Lu Ping was used to winning, so he slowly turned the mentality of winning against late-stage blood condensation realm cultivators into a mentality of absolute victory. That was why Lu Ping never thought that he would be defeated by a late-stage blood condensation realm cultivator in one move. It wasn't until the luxuriously dressed young master's sword attack that Lu Ping's confidence finally shattered. Whether it was his cultivation base or his swordsmanship, Lu Ping was not on the same level as the luxuriously dressed young master. Lu Ping finally realized that he was still far from reaching the peak of the blood condensation realm. In the past, Lu Ping only understood this principle, but he didn't understand the root of it. But now, Lu Ping understood. Lu Ping's luck wasn't bad. The young master only struck once. Lu Ping's foundation was strong, and he used all his skills to weaken the Sword Ocean's power. In the end, although he coughed up blood, his foundation wasn't damaged. With the nourishment from the Seven Stars Grotto Heaven's rich spiritual energy and the consumption of high-quality essence rejuvenating pellets and spirit recovering pellets, Lu Ping fully recovered in just 5 days. These few days, whenever Lu Ping calmed down, his mind would be filled with the young master's casual sword strike. That sword strike was like a bolt of lightning, showing Lu Ping a realm that he was about to reach, but he didn't know where to start. Lu Ping felt that he was only one step away from entering the realm of intent, but he couldn't break through this thin layer of window paper. Lu Ping knew that he was missing an opportunity. For the next few days, Lu Ping stayed in the belly of the mountain to polish his spiritual energy. At the same time, he tried to figure out his swordsmanship, hoping to encounter that moment of inspiration. One day, Lu Ping finally remembered that he still had things to do in the Seven-Star Grotto Heaven. Besides the golden nut fruit tree, he also promised Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu to help him. At the same time, The sect also sent cultivators into the 7-star grotto heaven. It was obvious that there was a mission. As a disciple who had been trained by Zhenling since he was young, how could he just stand by and watch? Lu Ping woke up and started refining the condensed blood beads of the primordial giant crocodile. After refining the 7 condensed blood beads, 7 days had passed. Lu Ping faintly felt that the 7 condensed blood beads weren't enough for him to break through to the late stage of the blood condensation realm. Fortunately, a few days ago, Lu Ping used the spiritual energy gathered from breaking through to the core forging realm. Not only did he raise his cultivation to the peak of the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm, he also compressed some of the excess spiritual energy into his flesh and blood. Now was the time to put it to good use. Lu Ping directly consumed 2 late-stage blood condensation realm medicinal pills to assist him. At the same time, he stimulated the hidden potential in his flesh and blood. Wisps of essence qi gathered on the surface of Lu Ping's body and did not dissipate. When the essence qi gathered to a certain extent, it finally condensed and formed a layer of blue protective qi around his body. This layer of protective qi had a name, Sky Pillar Water Curtain. Lu Ping felt the strength of the protective qi. It was actually comparable to a high-grade defensive magic artifact. This made Lu Ping very satisfied. In the past, when Lu Ping fought with late-stage blood condensation cultivators, he could easily tear through their protective qi with the high-grade soaring wing sword. This made Lu Ping not interested in the protective qi of late-stage blood condensation cultivators. Now that Lu Ping discovered that the protective qi of the Sky Pillar Water Curtain was not weaker than the inner armor, he was elated. The space in his heart core expanded once again. However, it didn't feel empty inside because there was another condensed blood bead. The previous 6 condensed blood beads had increased by a third. Lu Ping had finally reached the late stage of blood condensation. Lu Ping was finally back on the same starting line as his good friend. Overjoyed, Lu Ping took out the Qinghan sword and started practicing the 12 true arts of the North Sea. He started with the raging waves crashing on the shore and water control art, then moved on to the stone-piercing sword and wave-treading art, then to the azure dragon disturbing the sea and sea deception art, all the way to the great river flowing east and art of moving clouds and summoning rain that allowed Lu Ping to reach greater success in force. The more Lu Ping practiced, the more excited he became. Subconsciously, Lu Ping felt that he was getting closer and closer to the moment of enlightenment. His arcane energy gradually flowed through the Qinghan sword, and the hand seals formed by his hands became faster and faster. Lu Ping became more and more engrossed in practicing the 12 true arts of the North Sea, and the art of traversing clouds and summoning rain. Suddenly, a sudden clap of thunder flashed through Lu Ping's mind. Amidst the rain of swords and the boundless sea of swords, a white wave formed by sword flashes suddenly surged. Lu Ping had an epiphany. The sword technique in his hands changed. Lu Ping began practicing an unfamiliar sword technique, the 1000 snow pile sword of the 12 true arts of the North Sea. The Qinghan sword floated out, and 81 sword flashes formed a white wave that surged up from the great river and the sea. It was like layers upon layers of flawless white snowflakes piled up, carrying an indomitable intent within the ethereal air. The small hill finally couldn't withstand the enormous sword intent in the belly of the mountain and collapsed with a rumble. It looked like Lu Ping was about to be buried. Lu Ping didn't care in the slightest. His left hand formed 9 hand seals in succession. As his arcane energy pulsed, the small hill that had been sliced and pulverized by the sword flashes containing sword intent suddenly surged with a yellow wave of earth on the dark green grassland as Lu Ping struck out his hand seals. The wave of earth rose and fell as it moved forward on the grassland. Below the wave of earth, Lu Ping seemed to be single-handedly controlling a yellow river as the waves surged past the green grassland. Art of the blue tide of the 12 true arts of the North Sea. Lu Ping let out a long howl towards the sky, his voice shaking the grassland. Chapter 164. In the depths of an unknown mountain forest, there was a place filled with flowers. In this sea of flowers, a swarm of fist-sized bees were hovering up and down in the sea of flowers. The buzzing sound could be heard from miles away. In the forest not far from the sea of flowers, a few cultivators from the Sea of Flame sect were hiding. The middle-aged man leading the group asked a cultivator beside him, "Is everything ready?" After getting the answer, the middle-aged cultivator sent a signal into the distance. On the other side of the sea of flowers, a few beastly roars were heard. A few huge bear demons had been lured there. The bear demons hadn't eaten for a long time. As soon as they came to the sea of flowers, they smelled a mystical honey fragrance. Relying on the bear demon's intuition, the 5 early blood condensation and blood refining realm bear demons charged through the sea of flowers, heading towards the towering trees in the depths of the sea of flowers. After a while, miserable cries of bears could be heard from the depths of the sea of flowers. The cries returned and ran towards the sea of flowers. 5 bear demons covered their heads and fled like rats. A wung-wung sound that made one's scalp tingle could be heard. Looking from afar, each bear demon was followed by a purple crystal cloud. The cloud changed into different shapes and attacked the bear demons. The bear demons fled blindly. In a short while, they escaped into the forest and disappeared with the swarm of bees. Seeing that the swarm of bees had been lured away, the middle-aged cultivator hurriedly called out to the cultivators behind him. The cultivators from the Sea of Flame sect quickly and silently moved towards the depths of the Sea of Flowers. In the depths of the Sea of Flowers, the amethyst bees had built 7 huge strange-looking hives on 7 towering trees. At this time, most of the amethyst bees in the hives had been lured away by the bear demons. When the remaining amethyst bees saw the cultivators from the Sea of Flame sect rushing towards the hives, they let out a strange buzzing sound and formed a wall of bees, swarming towards the cultivators from the Sea of Flame sect. The middle-aged cultivator gave the order and the 5 cultivators on the periphery formed a simple magic array. They brought out their magic artifacts and 5 high-grade magic artifacts created 5 barriers. At the same time, the 5 of them channeled their astral energy through the magic array to link up with the 5 magic artifacts' defensive barriers to form a flaming barrier to protect the cultivators from Ocean Flame sect. The swarm of bees surrounded the shield and attacked wildly. For a moment, the tiny wind blades emitted by the purple crystal bee's wings and the stinger shot out caused the Ocean Flame sect's shield to ring. The flames on the surface of the shield also rose and fell, sometimes strong and sometimes weak. When the middle-aged cultivator saw that the barrier had temporarily blocked the attacks of the swarm of bees, he hurriedly said, "Quickly, the swarm of bees that stayed behind have already sent out a signal. It won't be long before the swarm of bees that chased the bear demons return." The middle-aged cultivator and the other 2 cultivators each wielded an exquisite top-grade magic tool. With a swipe at the beehive, sparks flew and the amethyst honey flowed out. A fragrance that was several times thicker than before immediately wafted out. The 3 cultivators each took out a jade crystal bottle and formed hand seals to collect the flowing purple crystal honey into the bottle. One of the cultivators looked up at the beehive and said, "Will the quality of the purple crystal honey in the beehive be higher? It would be great if there was the legendary purple crystal royal jelly." After saying that, he used the exquisite top-grade magic artifact in his hand to cut the top of the beehive. The middle-aged cultivator hurriedly shouted, "No." However, it was too late. The cultivator's magic artifact had already cut the top of the beehive. A purple honey that was thicker and sweeter than the honey from before flowed out of the beehive. The middle-aged cultivator looked anxious and said to the cultivators around him, "Run." After saying that, he ignored the baffled expressions of the surrounding cultivators and took the lead to run into the forest. Finally, some cultivators realized that something was wrong. By the time they were ready to retreat, it was already too late. After the cultivator used his magic artifact to cut the beehive, the besieging beehive slowed down and retreated to the top of the beehive. Then, as if they had received some kind of order, the purple crystal bees rushed towards the Sea Flame sect cultivators who were still in a daze. This time, it was no longer a spell or stinger attack. Instead, fist-sized purple crystal bees rammed into the Sea Flame sect's barrier. The moment they collided with the barrier, the purple crystal bees suddenly exploded, causing the barrier to flicker. Each purple crystal bee was only at the early blood refining realm, so the power of their self-destruction wasn't too great. However, when hundreds of purple crystal bees self-destructed at the same time, the power was not as simple as adding up. The remaining 7 sea flame sect cultivators had just retreated a few meters away when the flame barrier created by 5 late blood condensation cultivators, 5 high-grade magic artifacts, and the cultivator's own protective aura collapsed under the self-destruction of thousands of purple crystal bees. The 7 cultivators could only let out a few miserable screams before they were interrupted by the buzzing sound of the swarm of bees. Just as the sea flame sect cultivators were drowned by the swarm of bees, a thin veil was lifted in the air above the swarm. A thin figure jumped out from the veil and landed on the top of the beehive that was cut open by the sea flame sect cultivators. The thin minor repairs cultivator raised both his hands and stirred the broken beehive with 6 magic artifacts, causing the hole to widen. The cultivator took out a jade bottle and kept the overflowing beehive. At the same time, he reached out his right hand, which was wearing a magic artifact glove, and touched the beehive, as if he had grabbed something. The thin minor repairs cultivator was overjoyed. He quickly put the thing he grabbed into a jade box. Suddenly, dozens of wind blades flew out from the top of the beehive. The wind blades were all at the blood condensation realm, and 2 of them were even at the mid-blood condensation realm. The thin minor repairs cultivator was shocked. He quickly put away the jade bottle and flew into the forest. A strange chirp was heard. The swarm of bees turned around and chased in the direction that the thin minor repairs cultivator came from. They chased all the way out of the forest, but they lost track of the thin minor repairs cultivator. The swarm circled back and forth a few times, then turned back. After the swarm of amethyst bees retreated, a thin veil several meters long appeared in the bushes of a big tree, revealing the thin minor repairs cultivator wrapped inside. The thin minor repairs cultivator patted his chest and muttered to himself, "Thank goodness. Thank goodness I got this green veil tent from Big Brother. Otherwise, I would be in deep trouble." "Hihi, is that so? Your Excellency is really good at scheming. My ocean flame sect lured away the swarm of bees, and you took advantage of the situation and obtained the most precious royal jelly of the purple crystal bees. Unfortunately, my junior brothers died a violent death." A gloomy voice came. The thin minor repairs cultivator's expression changed. He cast the 6 magic tools in the air to protect himself. He turned around and asked sternly, "Who is it?" The middle-aged cultivator from Hai Yang sect suddenly appeared from behind a huge tree. The thin minor repairs cultivator said sternly, "It's you. Mph, you abandoned your junior brothers and escaped alone. Do you still have the face to say that?" The middle-aged cultivator sneered, "I already warned them in advance, but they were still greedy. Besides, I already gave them a warning when I escaped. They can only blame themselves for being too slow." The thin minor repairs cultivator sneered, "You are one of the North Sea's 18 generals. How can you say such words? How disrespectful." The middle-aged cultivator's expression changed. Arcane energy surged from his body. He said in a sinister voice, "You know me?" The thin minor repairs cultivator was on guard. He replied, "Hai Yang sect's Peng Changqing, 9th layer blood condensation realm, one of the North Sea's 18 generals." As soon as the thin minor repairs cultivator finished his sentence, Peng Changqing's 3 flame blades were already flying towards the thin minor repairs cultivator. He said fiercely, "Then I can't let you live." The thin minor repairs cultivator's 6 magic tools suddenly combined into a sword, a shield, and a pair of scissors. They blocked the 3 flame blades and flew away from the thicket. Unexpectedly, the 3 flame blades suddenly dodged the minor repairs cultivator's 3 magic tools and chased after the thin minor repairs cultivator. Then, they suddenly exploded. The petite cultivator was caught off guard and was nearly seriously injured. Even so, his face was deathly pale and he felt a lingering fear. Only now did he realize that Peng Changqing's reputation as one of the North Sea's 18 generals was not without reason. His methods were decisive and ruthless. Fortunately, the thin minor repairs cultivator was at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. He was also from a famous family and had the reputation of being a genius cultivator. Although he was at a disadvantage against Peng Changqing couldn't do anything to him in a short period of time. The thin minor repairs cultivator knew that he wasn't Peng Changqing's opponent. He tried to find an opportunity to escape. Unexpectedly, Peng Changqing sneered. Want to run? Not so easy. Peng Changqing raised his hands. 36 flame blades surrounded the thin minor repairs cultivator from all directions. Peng Changqing opened his mouth and blew. The 36 flame blades' flames instantly expanded, forming a huge fireball that enveloped the thin minor repairs cultivator. The thin minor repairs cultivator's face paled. He crushed a jade talisman in his hand and a whirlwind swept out, scattering the fireball. Peng Changqing chuckled and said, "There's actually a talisman made by a core forging enlightened master. However, a talisman won't be able to save your life." After saying that, Peng Changqing clasped his hands together. 4 fireballs appeared around him. The 4 fireballs had different colors and different temperatures. Clearly, they were the 4 types of fire seeds that Peng Changqing had condensed. The 4 fire seeds spat out a stream of flames in response to Peng Changqing's arcane energy. The flames intertwined in the air and formed a 4-colored flame rope that flew towards the thin minor repairs cultivator. The thin minor repairs cultivator tried his best to dodge, but the flame rope chased after him relentlessly. It looked like it was about to wrap around the thin minor repairs cultivator and kill him. Just as the thin minor repairs cultivator closed his eyes and waited for his death, a blue rope suddenly shot out from outside the woods. This rope was actually a slender water column that wound around Peng Changqing's flame rope. After all, the water rope was not as powerful as Peng Changqing's 4 types of life source fire seeds. However, the blue water rope was inexhaustible. At the same time, a vigorous arcane energy was hidden in the water rope. It collided with the flame rope with a loud bang. Peng Changqing felt as if he was in the middle of an erupting volcano at the bottom of the sea. Although the volcano was extremely powerful, it would eventually be conquered by the sea. The 2 ropes intertwined and died. Peng Changqing shouted towards the outside of the woods, "Who is outside the woods?" Peng Changqing of the Ocean Flame sect greets you. The person outside the woods did not speak. After a long time, a hesitant voice came in. "Is that Brother Ari Shudao inside?" Chapter 165. Is that Brother Ari Shudao inside? A voice came from outside the forest. The short minor repairs cultivator's face lit up and he shouted, "Yes, is it Brother Lu outside?" A series of footsteps came from outside the forest. A red-faced man appeared beside Peng Changqing, forming a pincer attack with Ari Shudao. When Ari Shudao saw that it wasn't the person he expected, he was startled. Peng Changqing saw this and suddenly shot a fire seed at Ari Shudao. The red-faced cultivator shouted, "Careful." A blue sword light cut into Peng Changqing's flame shield like a waterfall. Ari Shudao reacted as soon as the red-faced cultivator shouted. However, in his haste, he only had enough time to throw a small bell in the air. The fire seed collided with the bell and exploded, sending it flying away. Ari Shudao was pushed back by a scorching hot force, smashing through 2 large trees that were several feet thick. Only when the astral energy protecting his body collapsed did he stop. The red-faced cultivator's sword light cut into the flame barrier, but it was blocked by a magic tool. Peng Changqing himself was pushed back a few feet by the red-faced cultivator's sword. The flame shield was extinguished, revealing a surprised Peng Changqing. At this time, the 4 fire seeds surrounding Peng Changqing were each enveloped by a lantern. The yellow lantern in front of Peng Changqing was densely cut with dozens of cracks. The red-faced cultivator scanned the lantern with his divine sense and looked at Lu Ping with a serious expression. 81 cracks. You're only at the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm, but you've comprehended sword refinement and reached the realm of sword intent. The red-faced cultivator didn't think that a sword technique at the sword intent realm would be so powerful. With a single strike, it was able to leave a top-grade defensive magic treasure that was comparable to the Qinghan sword riddled with holes. Looking at the sword marks on the lantern, the red-faced cultivator sighed. After all, he had just comprehended the realm of sword intent. If his sword light was more powerful than 81 strikes, he would have been able to cut this top-grade magic tool into pieces. If his sword intent realm went one step further and reached the realm of sword refinement as one, not only would the lantern disintegrate, but the fire seeds inside would also be extinguished. The red-faced cultivator ignored Peng Changqing's words and looked at Ari Shudao, who was sent flying. "Brother Ari, how are you?" Ari Shudao lay on the ground and groaned. He slowly got up and said, "I'm fine, I can still fight." As soon as Ari Shudao's voice fell, the 6 celestial artifacts had already flown up. In mid-air, the 6 celestial artifacts combined to form a huge trident. Its power was no less than that of a top-grade celestial artifact. It stabbed towards Peng Changqing. The 4 lanterns floated around Peng Changqing and the fire seeds within them danced about, blocking the trident. Just as Peng Changqing was about to draw out the 4 flames, which transformed into 4 fire serpents, the red-faced cultivator brought out a crystal bowl. 4 pillars of water in the air transformed into 4 fish eagles, which flew towards the fire serpents. Peng Changqing knew that since Ari Shudao and the red-faced cultivator had joined forces, he had lost the chance to kill Ari Shudao. That was especially true of the red-faced cultivator, who gave him the feeling that he had yet to go all out. The red-faced cultivator was only in the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm. The aura around him was still fluctuating. Clearly, he had just broken through with the help of the dense spiritual energy in the 7-star sky. Peng Changqing exchanged several blows with the 2 cultivators. Ari Shudao had been the main attacker while the red-faced cultivator had been supporting him from the side. Every time Peng Changqing was about to gain the upper hand, the red-faced cultivator would unleash a perfectly timed attack to suppress Peng Changqing. Peng Changqing suddenly realized that the red-faced cultivator was using him as a practice target to hone his sword skills and spells. Peng Changqing was even more afraid of the red-faced cultivator. He took out 4 lanterns and blocked the 2's attacks. The fire seeds in the lanterns suddenly sprayed out a rain of fire, covering an area of tens of feet around Peng Changqing. The red-faced cultivator shouted, "He's trying to escape." With that said, a blue protective astral energy fused with the water curtain in the crystal bowl. When the rain of fire hit the water curtain, it only produced a puff of green smoke. At the same time, a green sword light stabbed towards the direction Peng Changqing was running. The 81 sword lights contained the intent that the red-faced cultivator had comprehended from their intent. Like a white wave, it chased after Peng Changqing. A white mist rose from Ari Shudao's hand and rolled towards the escaping Peng Changqing. Lu Ping looked at the jade talisman in Ari Shudao's hand. This guy actually used a talisman treasure. Peng Changqing used all 4 lanterns to block behind him. Lu Ping's sword light struck the lanterns again. The lantern that was heavily damaged by Lu Ping finally couldn't withstand the 1000 snow sword art and shattered into a pile of fragments. Immediately after, the white mist blew on the exposed fire seed and completely extinguished it. The remaining mist blew on the other 3 lanterns, causing a layer of crystal clear frost to form on the outside of the lanterns. The fire seed in the lanterns also flickered, looking like it was on the verge of death. One of Peng Changqing's natal fire seeds was extinguished, and the other 3 were also heavily injured. He spat out a mouthful of blood and disappeared into the forest, not daring to stay. When the red-faced cultivator saw Peng Changqing escape, he took off a mask from his face and said, "This Peng Changqing is really powerful. Even with our combined strength, we still couldn't stop him." When Ari Shudao saw that the person who took off the mask was indeed Lu Ping, his face lit up with joy. "That Peng Changqing is as famous as my brother, one of the North Sea's 18 generals. Naturally, he has many tricks up his sleeves. Today, the 2 of us worked together to seriously injure him. It's already not easy." Lu Ping didn't comment. Instead, he asked, "Brother Ari, how did you come to the 7-star sky? I haven't seen you for a few years, and you've already reached the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. Amazing." Ari Shudao heard Lu Ping's praise and said proudly, "Of course, I'm the family's genius. This time, I secretly followed Big Brother here because I wanted to broaden my horizons in the demon territory." Then, as if remembering something, he said gloomily, "Big Brother Lu is still so powerful. Just now, that Peng Changqing escaped mainly because Big Brother suppressed him to the point where he couldn't fight back. I didn't expect Big Brother to have already comprehended intent." Lu Ping smiled. "I was just lucky." "Oh right, I heard that your brother is also one of the North Sea's 18 generals. So your brother is West Hill Island's Ari Buatao? Seeing Ari Shudao nod with a proud expression, Lu Ping asked, how did you get into a fight with Peng Changqing? That guy is quite valued in the Sea Flame sect. I'm afraid he'll harm you in the future. Ari Shudao told Lu Ping about what happened in the Amethyst Hive. He was so excited that he wanted to share half of the large bottle of Amethyst Royal Jelly with Lu Ping. He didn't care about the Sea Flame sect's possible revenge at all. Amethyst Royal Jelly had a wide range of uses for cultivators. Drinking it with spirit spring water could increase a cultivator's cultivation and spiritual energy recovery speed. It could also be used to treat injuries. Of course, this was the most wasteful way to consume it. As an alchemist, Lu Ping knew that Amethyst Royal Jelly's effects were comparable to the main ingredients of thousand-year-old spiritual herbs. It was used to concoct many blood condensation and core forging realm pills. It could increase the effectiveness of pills and increase the success rate of pills. It could be said to be a panacea for alchemists. Chapter 166. The purple crystal royal jelly was so precious, and Ari Shudao took the risk to get it. Lu Ping was naturally embarrassed to take it for free, so he took out a jade crystal bottle and said, Brother Ari, the purple crystal royal jelly is indeed of great use to me, but I'm embarrassed to take it for free. This bottle of face-retaining pill is refined by me. After taking it, it can keep your appearance unchanged for 300 years. If Brother Ari has a Dao companion in the future, you can give it to your future sister-in-law. Ari Shudao wanted to refuse, but when he heard it was face-retaining pill, he immediately changed his mind. He took the jade crystal bottle from Lu Ping's hand with a look of novelty and joy. Looking at the pills inside, he didn't care what Lu Ping was saying. Lu Ping shook his head in boredom. He didn't expect a male cultivator like Ari Shudao to be so interested in face-retaining pill. After a long time, Ari Shudao calmed down from the joy of getting the face-retaining pill. Lu Ping joked, it seems that Brother Ari already has a Dao companion. You actually value the face-retaining pill so much. Ari Shudao's face reddened as he said, Big Brother Lu, this is the third time you've saved my life. I originally wanted to give the Amethyst Royal Jelly to you, but I didn't expect you to exchange it for the face-retaining pill. This makes me reluctant to part with it, but I also found some good things in the amethyst bee's nest. I want to give them to you as a thank you gift. Lu Ping was about to refuse, but he saw Ari Shudao take out a jade box and said, Brother Lu, don't refuse. Compared with Brother's life-saving grace, these are really nothing. If Brother doesn't want it, it means you look down on me. Lu Ping was helpless and could only watch Ari Shudao open the jade box. Lu Ping looked at the things in the box and said in surprise, Are these the eggs of the purple crystal bee? Ari Shudao smiled proudly and said, Yes, I took advantage of the fact that the Haiyan sect cultivators lured the bees away to get the royal jelly and hundreds of purple crystal bee eggs from the top of the hive. Most purple crystal bees were at the early stage of the blood refining realm. Only the queen bee and the drones could advance to the blood condensation realm. However, purple crystal bees usually had a large colony. Once they were ambushed, they would turn out in full force. If the enemy was strong, the swarm of bees would self-destruct. Even a core-forging enlightened master would have to avoid the explosion of hundreds or thousands of bees. Therefore, very few cultivators would provoke the purple crystal bees. But if it was the purple crystal bees' eggs, Lu Ping could use them to cultivate. Once they grew into a swarm and gave birth to a queen, not only could they be used to brew purple crystal honey and royal jelly, but they would also be greatly beneficial to Lu Ping's spirit herb garden. Other than that, the purple crystal bees also had another important function. Ari Shudao wanted to give away all the eggs, but Lu Ping insisted on only half. He also told Ari Shudao to incubate them well. If they were cultivated into Dao soldiers in the future, it would be of great help. But looking at Ari Shudao's absent-minded look, he probably didn't have much patience for cultivating Dao soldiers. Just at this moment, a jade pendant on Ari Shudao's waist suddenly flashed with light from time to time. Ari Shudao looked around in panic and said, Oh no, my brother is looking for me. Let's go quickly. Lu Ping asked curiously, "Why are you running when your brother is looking for you? This 7-star sky is full of danger. Isn't it better to stay by your brother's side?" Just as Ari Shudao was about to say something, a voice rang out. "Well said, Brother Lu Qi. Third brother, if something were to happen to you in the 7-star skies, the elders in the family would eat me alive." When Lu Ping turned around, he saw Ari Buetao walking over with a gloomy expression with a few people. Among them were cultivators Lu Ping was familiar with, Cheng and Huang. Ari Buetao obviously recognized Lu Ping. He laughed and said, "Brother Lu, I didn't expect to meet you here today after fighting with the primordial giant crocodile." Lu Ping said seriously, "I don't dare to lie to Brother Ari. I am Lu Ping, a disciple of Zhenling Liu Shenling. Back then, I was in the Demon Sea region, so I didn't dare to tell you my real name. I hope Brother Ari, Brother Cheng, and Brother Huang can forgive me." Lu Ping apologized to Ari Buetao, Cheng, and Huang. At this time, Ari Shudao also briefly told Ari Buetao about the two of them. Ari Buetao waved his hand and said, "It's not Brother Lu's fault. The Demon Sea region is full of danger. Brother Lu is alone outside, so it's normal for him to be cautious. However, I didn't expect that the Zhenling Lu Ping who saved his life twice on Failing Island was you." Lu Ping replied humbly, "It's nothing much, not worth mentioning." After Ari Buetao finished his greetings, he said seriously, "Brother Lu, what are your plans next? Are you going to meet up with your disciples or continue to explore alone?" Lu Ping heard between the lines and asked, "Brother Ari, do you have any news about me, Zhenling?" Ari Buetao said, "This time, your sect is led by Qi Zitsai, one of the North Sea 18 generals. Currently, there are more than 20 people in your sect. They have already clashed with Xianling sect, demon race, and several other forces. Although there are victories and losses, it is said that your sect has obtained several top-grade spiritual materials, rare 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs, and 2 Dharma treasures." Speaking of Dharma treasures, Ari Buetao was also envious. When Lu Ping heard that his sect didn't suffer any losses, he asked, "Brother Ari, do you know where my people are now?" Ari Buetao shook his head and said, "All forces will not stay in one place for too long. Otherwise, they may be besieged by other forces. So, I don't know where your sect is now." Seeing that Lu Ping was a little disappointed, Ari Buetao said, "Little brother, you don't need to worry about your sect. Your sect is strong. That Qi Zitsai killed the leader of a demon race head-on and obtained a Dharma treasure. Your sect also has 2 7th-layer blood condensation cultivators. One of them controls 2 late blood condensation puppets, and the other wields 2 top-grade short swords. Their movements are like phantoms, and the 2 of them work together to force Miao Weidong, one of Xianling sect's 18 generals of the North Sea, to retreat and snatch the second magic treasure from him. Right now, the names of these 2 cultivators have spread throughout the 7-star skies. I'm sure that after the 7-star skies closes, these 2 cultivators will be famous throughout the North Sea." When Lu Ping heard Ari Buetao's description, he knew that he was talking about Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu. He didn't expect them to have already met up with his sect's cultivators. When Ari Shudao heard his big brother praising Zhenling's other cultivators, he snorted and said, "What's so great about them? Big brother Lu and I just joined forces and injured Haiyang sect's Peng Changqing." When Ari Buetao and the others heard this, they looked at the 2 of them in surprise. Ari Buetao knew that although his third brother was a genius in cultivation, he didn't have much experience in fighting. Even if the 2 of them joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for Peng Changqing, who had been in the 9th-layer blood condensation realm for many years. Therefore, it was obvious that Peng Changqing was injured and escaped because of this Zhenling's disciple. Lu Ping felt a little awkward under the strange gaze of the West Hill Island cultivator. Ari Buetao laughed and said, "Brother Lu is really amazing. I wonder what Brother Lu plans to do next. If you don't mind, you can stay with me for the time being. We can take care of each other, and the other forces won't dare to provoke us." Lu Ping thought for a moment and declined, "No, I'd better return to my sect as soon as possible. From what Brother Ari said, it's obvious that our sect is in a fierce competition with Xianling sect and the monster race. I have to do my best. Besides, I still need to go to the Golden Fallen Canyon to collect some rare spiritual herbs. Ari Buetao's eyes lit up and said, Brother Lu is also an alchemist. Could it be that the Ajurasia pill in third brother's hand was refined by Brother Lu? Lu Ping nodded and said, I'm not talented, but I just got the qualification to be our sect's alchemist. Ari Buetao was surprised and said, I've long heard that your sect has a new alchemist who can refine the Chiman Ajurasia pill. I didn't expect it to be Brother Lu. Not only is Brother Lu's cultivation level high, but you also have a good alchemy skill. It's really admirable. However, Ari Buetao's tone changed, and he said in a serious tone, the Golden Fallen Canyon that Brother Lu is going to is a famous dangerous place in the seven-star sky. Although there are many rare spiritual herbs, there are fierce beasts and poisonous creatures that even a core forging stage perfected master is quite afraid of. As soon as Ari Buetao's voice fell, Ari Shudao on the side muttered in a rather unhappy voice, what's so great about it? Isn't the amethyst flower sea also a dangerous place? Didn't you let me get the amethyst royal jelly? Ari Buetao glanced at Ari Shudao and said in a deep voice, the Golden Fallen Canyon has even devoured several core forging stage perfected masters who sealed their cultivation. Compared with the Golden Fallen Canyon, the amethyst flower sea is really not a dangerous place. Ari Buetao saw that Lu Ping had made up his mind, so he could only say, only the Golden Orange Island is in the Golden Fallen Canyon. The Liao family goes there every time the seven-star sky opens, but they only dare to move in the periphery. The rest are some adventurous alchemists and individual cultivators. However, I heard that this time He Lisin of the Shui Yang Pavilion is against the Liao family for some reason. Now she is gathering a group of Shui Yang Pavilion cultivators to go to the Golden Fallen Canyon to find trouble with the Liao family. Brother Lu should be careful when going to the Golden Fallen Canyon. Lu Ping went all the way to the northwest. With Ari Buetao's guidance, Lu Ping knew that the Golden Fallen Canyon was located in the northwest of the Grotto Heaven when the seven-star sky opened, but Ari Buetao didn't know the specific location. Looking from a distance, the Golden Valley looked like the ground of the seven-star sky had suddenly sunk in, forming a huge scar. However, this scar appeared to be golden from a distance, and did not have the miasma of poisonous beasts and ferocious beasts running amok. The seven-star sky had already opened for more than a month. When Lu Ping arrived at the canyon, not only was the spirit-seeking mouse Dabao leading the way, the three green sea snakes had also awakened, and their cultivation had reached the fourth layer of the blood condensation realm. A beautiful big bird was hovering above Lu Ping's head. It was the blue phoenix, Lu Qin, who had reached the late blood condensation realm. Lu Dague's walking speed was slow, so Lu Ping didn't let him out. Moreover, Lu Dague didn't like to travel long distances. Compared to Lu Ping's other spiritual pets, Lu Dague liked to stay in the spirit beast bag and sleep the most. Chapter 167. The Golden Luo Valley was huge and there were many entrances. Lu Ping summoned Qing Luan down from the sky. The bird flapped its wings a few times and in the blink of an eye, it had shrunk from its original size of 5 feet to a petite bird about a foot long. It landed on Lu Ping's shoulder. This was the ability Lu Qin gained after advancing to the late blood condensation realm. She could shrink her body size at will. The 3 green sea snakes already had this ability when they first entered the blood condensation realm. Lu Ping also planned to concoct some form transformation pills and bone dissolving pills. When demonic beasts advanced to the late blood condensation realm, they could use the form transformation pills to gain the half-step transformation ability. It would help the demonic beasts improve their cultivation. However, Lu Qin was unwilling to use the form transformation pills. The reason was that the half-step transformation was too ugly. She would rather slow down her cultivation speed and complete the transformation when she reached the core forging realm. This reason made Lu Ping dumbfounded. After Lu Ping helped her kill the red mantis bird, Lu Qin had completely submitted to Lu Ping. This was the only thing she was stubborn about. Fortunately, Lu Ping didn't have the pill recipe for the form transformation pills, so he could only let her be. As for the bone-dissolving pellets recipe, Lu Ping bought it from the alchemy pavilion. After consuming the bone-dissolving pellet, the monster would be able to refine the transverse bone in its throat, granting it the ability to speak. Both of these medicinal pellets were unique medicinal pellets between the blood condensation and core forging realm. After Dabao entered the Golden One Canyon, the dangerous aura around him made him tremble. Fortunately, the 3 green sea snakes were at the front, so the danger wouldn't find him immediately. After Lu Ping stepped into the Golden One Canyon, his divine sense expanded to more than 100 feet. Soon, he found many hidden dangerous auras around him. There were animals and plants. These creatures were shrouded in poisonous fog of various colors, ready to kill at any time. This was also the reason why Lu Ping waited for the 3 green sea snakes to wake up before entering the Golden One Canyon. Green sea snakes were highly poisonous creatures, so they were immune to most poisons. The Golden One Canyon was a dangerous place in the eyes of other human and demonic cultivators, but it was a paradise in the eyes of the green sea snakes. As the green sea snakes moved forward, the surrounding poisonous creatures were afraid of the pressure of the green sea snake's high-grade bloodline, but they were even more afraid of the poisonous aura emitted by the 3 spiritual snakes. After communicating with the 3 spiritual snakes, Lu Ping learned that Lu Bai was good at invisible poison, also known as wind poison, which could make the enemy inadvertently fall for it. Lu Hai was good at corrosive poison. When its venom stuck to the enemy's body, even a middle-grade magic weapon would rot, not to mention the physical body. Lu Ling was good at cold poison, which could wear down the enemy's magic power and Jin Yuan and damage their foundation. With the green sea snakes leading the way, Lu Ping made smooth progress in the periphery of the canyon. Even if there were some poisonous creatures and fierce beasts that jumped out to attack, they were all killed by the spiritual snakes. Along the way, Lu Ping also met a few cultivators who were collecting herbs on the periphery. However, because they were in a dangerous place, they restrained themselves and often avoided each other after glancing at each other. On the side, Dabao was using his talent as a spirit-seeking mouse. Together with Lu Ping's vast divine sense, they managed to find quite a few 500-year-old spirit herbs. There were even some 1,000-year-old spirit herbs that were extremely rare in the outside world. This surprised Lu Ping. On this day, Lu Ping found himself at the border between the periphery and the inside of the Golden Valley according to the mark of the golden nut fruit tree. The inside of the Golden Valley was shrouded in a faint golden mist, which was also the origin of the name of the Golden Valley. It was said that this thin layer of mist was formed by the poisonous gas emitted by various high-level poisonous creatures in the Golden Valley. The deeper one went, the thicker the golden mist, the more poisonous it was, and the more tyrannical the strength of the ferocious creatures hidden in it. The blue phoenix standing on Lu Ping's shoulder looked back and chirped a few times in Lu Ping's ear. Its voice was quite pleasant to the ear. Lu Ping glanced back and said, "A few scoundrels have been following us for 2 days, there's nothing to worry about." After saying that, he put the blue phoenix back into the spirit beast bag and took out a jade bottle from his storage ring. He threw a poison avoidance pill to Dabao and ate one himself. Then, he put Dabao on his shoulder and released his protective aura. Then, he followed behind the spirit snake and walked into the golden mist. Not long after Lu Ping entered the Golden Valley, 6 figures carefully walked over from the periphery to the place where Lu Ping was standing. A cultivator in black said, "This guy is really reckless. He actually dared to enter the Golden Valley. Even those core forging enlightened masters with their cultivation sealed don't dare to enter casually. This person is only at the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm, obviously not an enlightened master with his cultivation sealed." The taller cultivator on the other side was also in black. He said, "This person must have something to rely on if he dares to enter the Golden Valley. I think the 3 demonic snakes are quite extraordinary. Maybe he really can find some treasures inside." The others looked at the leading cultivator. The leading cultivator pondered for a while and said, "Our task is to monitor the battle between the Shui Yang Pavilion and the Liao family and cooperate with our brothers to ambush the cultivators of the 2 families." However, this person was able to pass through the periphery of the Golden Valley so quickly and directly enter the Golden Valley. Obviously, he is after the treasures inside and has a way to avoid the golden poison fog. We can't miss this opportunity. Seeing that his words were approved by everyone, The leading cultivator ordered, Junior Marshal Brother Qi, stay here with Junior Marshal Brother Yang and Junior Marshal Brother Wang. If that person survives the golden poison fog, be sure to kill him and take his treasures. Of the 3 junior Marshal brothers, one is an 8th layer blood condensation realm cultivator and 2 7th layer blood condensation realm cultivators. Dealing with a 7th layer blood condensation realm cultivator like minor repairs shouldn't be a problem. The tall cultivator who spoke earlier nodded and stayed with the 2 black-clothed cultivators. The leading cultivator brought the remaining 2 cultivators and sped towards the periphery. After Lu Ping entered the golden fog, he discovered that the golden poisonous fog was slowly corroding Lu Ping's protective astral energy. However, Lu Ping didn't care. As Lu Ping went deeper, the golden fog became thicker and thicker, and the corrosion on his protective astral energy was also slowly increasing. Although it was not worth mentioning to Lu Ping's strong magic power, Lu Ping still dissolved 2 poison avoidance pills into liquid and fused them with his protective astral energy. Only then did the corrosion of the poisonous fog lessen. Compared to Lu Ping's caution, the 3 snakes were like fish in water after entering the poisonous fog. Chapter 168. When the 3 spirit snakes were wrapped by the golden poison, Lu Ping found that the spirits of the 3 spirit snakes were shaken. The golden mist formed a small vortex around the 3 spirit snakes. An invisible airflow, a blue profound qi, and a white cold mist respectively swallowed and spat out from the mouths of the 3 spirit snakes, absorbing the poison contained in the golden mist. Lu Ping knew that in order to strengthen the innate ability of monster cultivators, they must absorb the same kind of things that were more powerful than their own innate ability. The Cyan Luan didn't care about the life source fire of the red mantis bird. For the same reason, the 3 spirit snakes swallowed and spat out the golden mist, indicating that the mist contained a poison that was more powerful than the life source venom of the spirit snakes. This made Lu Ping vigilant. The venom of the green sea snake was already one of the most violent poisons in the world. What kind of poison was more violent than the green sea snake? After entering the Golden Valley, under the guidance of Dabao, a 1,000-year-old spirit grass was quickly captured by Lu Ping's divine sense. At the same time, there was a violent aura guarding in front of the spirit grass. Lu Ping didn't hesitate to command the spirit snakes to move forward. With a roar, a monster beast that looked like a cow and a deer rushed towards Lu Ping with heavy steps. Every time the monster beast touched the ground, it would produce a strange force, making Lu Ping feel unsteady. At the same time, the spiritual power in his body seemed to begin to fluctuate uncontrollably. The 3 spirit snakes didn't panic. They twisted their tails together and instantly stabilized their swaying bodies. When the monster beast rushed over, the spirit snakes suddenly dodged to the sides. At the same time, they swept their tails horizontally. The rushing monster beast was tripped by the feet of the spirit snakes. Its huge body suddenly fell forward and rolled all the way, smashing the ground and causing another tremor. The monster beast woke up from the dizziness and quickly stood up. Its body had been hit by the 3 spirit snakes with their tails, leaving a dozen bloody wounds. The monster beast became angry and roared. It opened its mouth and sprayed a grey poisonous gas at the spirit snakes. Unexpectedly, the 3 spirit snakes didn't care about the poisonous gas. They directly passed through the gas and bit the monster beast's face, neck, and thigh. The monster beast suddenly lost its balance and fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth and twitching. Dabao, who was standing on Lu Ping's shoulder, saw the monster beast die. He shivered as he looked at the 3 spirit snakes. When he played with Samling, Samling would often wrap his body around Dabao. If Samling randomly bit Dabao, Dabao would immediately lose his balance and fall off Lu Ping's shoulder. Lu Ping didn't care about Dabao's fear. He looked at the monster beast in front of him that was around the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm. Lu Ping was very satisfied with Samling's performance. However, it was obvious that he wouldn't be able to obtain any spiritual materials from this monster beast. In just a few moments, the monster beast's bones had already started to soften. The surface of its body had started to rot, and a thin layer of ice had formed on the other side. This was the result of Samling's 3 poisons. Lu Ping walked up to the spirit herb and discovered that it was a fallen spirit herb. It was the main ingredient used to concoct the fallen spirit pellet, a core forging realm medicinal pellet. This medicinal pellet could purify the cultivator's true yuan and strengthen their foundation. It was also beneficial to the cultivator's ability to fuse with natural spirit items. It was a rare medicinal pellet for the core forging realm. Lu Ping carefully plucked the meteorite spirit herb and placed it in a separate jade box. 1,000-year-old spirit grass that could grow in the golden poison mist either had a strong resistance to poison, or it was a highly toxic spirit grass. Regardless of which type it was a rare and precious spirit grass that was far more valuable than ordinary 1,000-year-old spirit grass. It was the main ingredient for refining some core forging realm special pills and top-grade cultivation pills. During the time that Lu Ping entered the Golden Valley, with the help of Samling and Dabao, Lu Ping had already collected more than 20 types of rare 1,000-year-old spirit grass. In addition, there were hundreds of 500-year-old spirit grass. At the same time, Lu Ping also collected the seeds of each matured spirit grass. He was going to try to grow them when he returned. However, the growth of these spirit grass was closely related to the poisonous environment of the Golden Valley. Unless Lu Ping could create a similar environment, it would be difficult for Lu Ping to fulfill his wish. However, Lu Ping had encountered danger many times. As Lu Ping ventured deeper into the Golden Valley, the poisonous beasts he encountered became stronger and stronger. Samling's strength was only equivalent to an ordinary 7th-layer blood condensation realm beast. Moreover, the toxicity of poisonous beasts was proportional to their cultivation. Although Samling's venom was of high quality, it was not as toxic as a late-stage blood condensation realm poisonous beast. Therefore, Samling could no longer deal with the poisonous beast's attacks. Lu Ping also began to attack more frequently. However, after discovering a 2,000-year-old night patrol grass, they were chased by a group of poisonous cloud ants. Fortunately, Lu Ping was prepared in advance. He asked Dabao to sneak underground. While the poisonous cloud ants were chasing after Lu Ping's group, Dabao lured them away and plucked the precious night patrol grass. Without the protection of Lu Ping's earth energy, even if Dabao ate a poison avoidance pill, he was still poisoned when he met up with Lu Ping. Fortunately, the toxicity was not strong. Lu Ling mischievously bit Dabao's ear and pulled out the poison. However, this scared Dabao half to death. Lu Ping gradually found that as he went deeper and deeper into the inner layer of the Golden Canyon, the golden mist around him became thicker and thicker, and the corrosion of his earth energy became more and more serious. His divine sense seemed to be hindered, and he could only explore within a radius of 100 feet. If he tried to explore outside, his divine sense would feel a burning pain, as if it was burning. In order to be safe, Lu Ping always held a middle-grade spirit stone in his hand and maintained a state of cultivation, so as not to consume too much spiritual power. His divine sense also always paid attention to the surrounding 100 feet, and no longer explored outside. Along the way, Lu Ping encountered the remains of several cultivators who had fallen in the Golden Canyon. However, most of the storage bags carried by the cultivators had been corroded by the golden poisonous mist for a long time. The items inside were also the same, which made Lu Ping feel quite regretful. On this day, Lu Ping encountered the remains of another cultivator. At first, Lu Ping didn't take it seriously, but when he got closer, he found that the remains had traces of being turned over, and fresh soil was exposed underneath. Lu Ping's expression was solemn. This was the first time Lu Ping had encountered a cultivator exploring the inner layer of the Golden Canyon. The mist was getting thicker and thicker. Even if the cultivator had excellent eyesight, he couldn't see far and could only use his divine sense to look around. A vigilant figure suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's divine sense. Lu Ping took a few steps forward and asked in surprise, "Is that Brother Liao Hu in front?" When the vigilant cultivator in front heard Lu Ping's question, his cautious aura suddenly relaxed and immediately became chaotic. Lu Ping walked over and saw Liao Hu sitting cross-legged on the ground. He took out a pill from a jade bottle and couldn't wait to swallow it. At the same time, his whole body's spiritual power surged, and his face alternated between green, black, and gold. Lu Ping's expression changed. He quickly walked forward and slapped Liao Hu's back. A stream of spiritual power flowed into Liao Hu's body like a clear stream, and together with Liao Hu's own spiritual power, it cleansed the poison that had invaded his body. Liao Hu spat out a mouthful of golden blood and thanks to Brother Lu, otherwise, even if I don't die, I would have lost a layer of skin. Lu Ping said with a dignified expression, Brother Liao's family should often go in and out of the inner layer of the Golden Valley. How did you get poisoned by the golden mist? Liao Hu's eyes were a little evasive as he said, Of course I wanted to collect more spirit herbs. The deeper I went, the more rare spirit herbs there would be. Maybe I could even pick the 3,000-year-old spirit herb that Fa Xiong Laozu used for alchemy. Unexpectedly, the golden mist suddenly became stronger, and the antidote pill prepared by the family was no longer effective. My protective gang qi was also rapidly corroded, and I didn't have time to replenish my spiritual power. If I hadn't escaped quickly, my life would have been over. Lu Ping knew that he must be hiding something, so he didn't probe further and asked, Is the poisonous mist really that powerful? Liao Hu nodded and said, If you go further in, the ground will completely turn golden. The golden poisonous mist is so thick that it seems to have turned into liquid. Walking in it will feel sticky. That should be the core area of the Golden Valley. Lu Ping thought for a moment and asked, Brother Liao, what plans do you have in the future? Liao Hu looked back with lingering fear and hurriedly advised, I know Brother Lu plans to go in, but I advise Brother Lu not to go in. It is too dangerous inside. Even if Brother Lu's spiritual power far surpasses other cultivators in the same realm, it won't be enough to support your protective gang qi for too long. Although little brother didn't die this time, the poison entered your body and damaged your vitality. You can't stay in the inner layer of the Golden Valley any longer. You have to get out of the range of the golden mist as soon as possible. Lu Ping felt that Liao Hu's advice was a little too hasty, as if he was afraid that he would enter the core area. So, Lu Ping nodded and said, Since Brother Liao said that, little brother doesn't dare to go in. Brother Liao is only at the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm and can't withstand it, let alone little brother. However, it wasn't easy for little brother to come here, so I want to look around the inner layer while I still have some spiritual power left. I want to see if I can find more spiritual herbs. When Liao Hu heard that Lu Ping had given up on exploring the core area, he heaved a sigh of relief and said, In that case, little brother will leave first. Lu Ping said, Brother Liao, be careful on your way back. It's best if you find another exit. I heard that Shui Yang Pavilion's He Listen is also in the Golden Valley and is preparing to deal with the Liao family cultivators. After bidding farewell to Liao Hu, Lu Ping looked at the core area of the Golden Valley with a playful expression and muttered, Core area, huh? I really have to go in for the golden nut fruit tree. When he reached the edge of the core area, it was just as Liao Hu had said. The black soil and the golden soil formed a clear dividing line. When Samling reached the dividing line, he seemed to sense danger and refused to enter the golden area no matter what. However, the fervent look in Samling's eyes told Lu Ping that it wasn't that they didn't want to go in, but that they were too weak and didn't have the qualifications to enter. After Lu Ping took another antidote pill, he dissolved 3 pills into liquid and sprinkled them into the water curtain skyflower. Then, he stepped into the golden area with 1 foot. A sizzling sound could be heard, and the protective aura around Lu Ping's body began to corrode at a speed far faster than before. Green smoke rose from the water curtain skyflower, and the spiritual power in Lu Ping's body began to evaporate like a pot of boiling water. Chapter 169. Lu Ping quickly retreated from the golden zone. Judging from the current situation, it was just as Liao Hu said, Lu Ping could only stay in the golden zone for an hour at most, and this didn't include the possibility of being attacked by the poisonous beasts. Lu Ping rubbed his chin and thought for a moment. He put Samling into the range of his earth energy, then let Samling inject his own demon spiritual energy into the water curtain heaven flower. Samling was very familiar with Lu Ping's Fa Li, so it was easy for Lu Ping and Samling's Fa Li to fuse into the earth energy. Lu Ping stepped into the golden area again and found that the golden mist was still corroding Lu Ping's earth energy. But at the same time, the mist that came into contact with the earth energy was also weakened. At this time, 3 demon spiritual energies appeared in Lu Ping's earth energy and wrapped the weakened mist into Samling's mouth, which was then absorbed by Samling. In this way, Lu Ping's Fa Li consumption was greatly reduced. Lu Ping felt that he could last for 8 hours in the golden area. Lu Ping confidently entered the golden area. Just as he advanced a few dozen feet, he saw a skeleton lying on the ground. The skeleton had been turned over by someone. It seemed that Liao who had gotten here before him. The skeletons found in the inner layer had already been corroded by the poisonous mist. But this skeleton had been corroded by far more poisonous mist than the inner layer, yet it was still intact. Obviously, this was the skeleton of a core forging master. It seemed that Liao who had obtained some kind of treasure. Lu Ping continued forward and collected 24 rare 1000-year spirit herbs in a row. This made Lu Ping very excited, but at the same time, he wondered why he didn't encounter any poisonous beasts guarding the spirit herb. Lu Ping secretly became vigilant. He held the talisman that his teacher, Liu Shenling, gave him tightly in his hand. Lu Ping followed the directions on the map in the jade slip and found the golden nut fruit tree on the other side of the golden area. No wonder someone could find this fruit tree. It turned out that it was on the other side of the core area. Presumably, the person who found it couldn't enter the core area. Strictly speaking, the golden nut was not a spiritual herb that could increase one's cultivation. The biggest use of the golden nut was to increase the strength of one's bones. A cultivator's magic power was carried by their bloodline, but the bloodline was carried by the cultivator's fleshly body. When a cultivator absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to cultivate, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth would also cleanse the cultivator's fleshly body, making it stronger and able to carry even more magic power. It could be said that a tyrannical body was an important aspect for a cultivator to consolidate their foundation. It played an important role in helping a cultivator to break through realms and progress further on the path of cultivation. Legend had it that Lao Tzu, who was in the Dharma phase, placed great importance on the strengthening of his physical body. As for the exact reason, Lu Ping did not know. In order to strengthen the fleshly body, cultivators in the world of cultivation came up with all kinds of training methods. However, most of the methods could not compare to the natural cleansing and strengthening of the body after the spiritual energy entered the body. Cultivators could only work on elixirs, but there were very few elixirs that could strengthen the fleshly body. However, the golden nut was one of the few spiritual fruits that could strengthen the fleshly body. If it was combined with dozens of 500-year-old spiritual herbs and 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs to refine the golden nut pill, the effect would be even stronger. The golden nut fruit tree was only 3 feet tall. There were 36 golden nuts on it. This kind of fruit usually matured once every 100 years. However, the golden nut tree would only start bearing fruit when it reached 3,000 years of age. Lu Ping plucked 20 of the matured golden nuts. Then, he used the Qinghan sword to cut open the ground within a radius of 10 meters from the root of the tree. He then opened the 1000-bell millet magic tool and transplanted the entire golden nut tree into the magic tool. Fortunately, the golden nut tree was only resistant to poison and did not need such a toxic environment. Otherwise, Lu Ping would really have a headache. After taking care of the golden nut tree, Lu Ping let out a long sigh. His main mission in the Golden Fallen Canyon was completed. What was left was to take advantage of the time when his protective aura could still last and harvest as many spiritual herbs as possible in the core area. Lu Ping's excitement only slowly calmed down when he saw a skeleton lying in front of a spiritual herb. From the posture of the skeleton, this person should have been harvesting the spiritual herb in front of him when he was alive. Lu Ping had never seen this spiritual herb before, but from the aura it emitted, this spiritual herb should be more than 3,000 years old. A spiritual herb that was 3,000 years old was used to refine the elixir that Lao Tzu of the Dharma phase used to cultivate. There were a total of 8 spiritual herbs like this behind this one. Lu Ping forcefully suppressed the excitement in his heart. This skeleton was obviously the body of a core forging enlightened master. The skeletons that Lu Ping had encountered before were mostly in a running and fighting posture. Only this skeleton died suddenly without any resistance. What caused this enlightened master to suddenly die while harvesting spiritual herbs? Lu Ping carefully turned the skeleton over with the Qinghan sword and found a silver storage bracelet on the left wrist of the skeleton. Lu Ping's face lit up with joy. He used his magic power to draw the bracelet over. When he held it in his hand, he saw a big Liao character carved on it. It was exactly the same as the Liao character on the jade token that Liao Hu gave to Lu Ping. Lu Ping remembered Liao Hu's expression. Could it be that Liao Hu went deep into the core area to find this skeleton? Lu Ping used his divine sense to explore the storage bracelet, but found that the bracelet was sealed with divine sense. Although the owner of the bracelet was dead, it would still take Lu Ping a lot of time to erase the seal formed by the divine sense. After all, divine sense and divine sense were not on the same level. The former was a talent that only enlightened masters had. Lu Ping looked at the 9 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs in front of him, but he did not dare to pick them. Lu Ping thought for a long time. Suddenly, he patted his head and took out a puppet monkey from his storage ring. This was the gift that 7th senior sister Fan Zihua had given him in Chonghua Mansion. Lu Ping pressed a middle-grade spirit stone on the forehead of the monkey. At the same time, he connected a trace of divine sense with the monkey. The monkey suddenly moved in a crooked manner. Lu Ping manipulated the monkey to familiarize himself with it. Then, he slowly commanded the monkey to move towards the unknown spiritual herbs. When the monkey arrived in front of the spiritual herbs, it began to dig the soil at the roots of the spiritual herbs under Lu Ping's command. Suddenly, a black fog rose from behind a rock behind the 9 spiritual herbs. It silently floated around the monkey's body. A small poochie sound was heard. Countless small holes appeared on the monkey's body. A burst of black smoke quickly rose from the monkey's body. In a short moment, the monkey puppet was corroded, leaving only a wreckage. Lu Ping looked at the black fog that returned to behind the rock. There was a pondering expression on his face. After a while, he seemed to think of something and exclaimed in a low voice, "Blood-melting mosquitoes. Blood-melting mosquitoes. Is there a 10,000 poison liquid behind the rock?" The expression on Lu Ping's face was complicated. It was difficult to distinguish between fear and surprise. Chapter 170. Lu Ping looked at the black mist behind the rock and finally remembered that it was a strange species called the blood-melting mosquito. The reason why this species could survive was because of the myriad poison serum. The blood-melting mosquito could only move within 100 feet of the myriad poison serum, otherwise, it would be difficult for it to survive. The blood-melting mosquito had a special ability: it could not be detected by a cultivator's divine sense. Living in the myriad poison serum all year round, the blood-melting mosquito carried a strong poison on its body. When the divine sense wrapped around them, the poison would silently melt the divine sense. This species could fly without making a sound. Most cultivators' earth energy could not stop the penetration of the blood-melting mosquito, even core forging enlightened masters could not. This should be the reason why this cultivator died here when he was picking the spirit grass. Since he knew it was the blood-melting mosquito, it was easy to deal with. The blood-melting mosquito looked terrifying and could silently kill an enlightened master, but if it was exposed, it would not necessarily be that powerful. Lu Ping held a jade talisman in his hand and threw a mid-grade spirit stone in the direction of the spirit grass. The spirit stone fell on the stem of the spirit grass, causing it to shake. A black mist suddenly rose from behind the rock and swept towards the direction of the spirit stone. When the black mist flew above the spirit grass, the jade talisman in Lu Ping's hand suddenly rushed out 7 water waves. The water waves gradually rose higher and higher, forming 7 water vortexes. The vortexes spun faster and faster until they turned into 7 rotating water columns that were dozens of feet high and surged towards the black mist. This was a talisman treasure created by Liu Xianling when he was at the 7th layer of the core forging realm, Water Tornado. The huge amount of black mist seemed to be inexplicably attracted by the water tornado, like moths flying into a flame. The light blue water tornado was gradually covered with a layer of black. The effect of the water tornado lasted for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, and the entire black mist was sifted into black powder, densely covering the golden ground. The remaining mosquitoes that escaped the net rushed towards Lu Ping, but a red flame appeared in Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping's hands changed a seal and the flame suddenly exploded, turning into a wave of fire that slowly burned the remaining mosquitoes to ashes. Lu Ping looked at the crimson nirvana fire in his hand. Its power was far inferior to the indigo spirit fire. Even a small swarm of blood-dissolving mosquitoes had taken such a long time to burn. If it was the indigo spirit fire, the mosquitoes would have been incinerated into nothingness in an instant. Lu Ping didn't know why the mosquitoes were guarding the spirit grass, but out of caution, Lu Ping took out a mid-grade spirit stone and threw it at the spirit grass. Seeing that there were no mosquitoes flying out, Lu Ping boldly plucked the 9 unknown spirit grass that were at least 3,000 years old. It had been 6 hours since Lu Ping entered the core area of the Golden Valley. There was still an hour left. Lu Ping saw that the samling was already struggling to breathe, but the myriad poison liquid behind the rocks still attracted Lu Ping's attention. Lu Ping carefully walked around the rocks in front of him. A strange fragrance entered Lu Ping's nose. Lu Ping nervously felt for a moment, and after confirming that there was no poison, he breathed in with relief. He took a few more steps forward, and a golden pool with a circumference of 30 feet appeared in front of him. Lu Ping took a deep breath. There was actually such a large pool of myriad poison liquid, and Lu Ping had never heard of this kind of golden myriad poison liquid. Clouds of golden mist slowly rose from the golden liquid of the myriad poison liquid and spread into the air. Lu Ping suddenly knew where the golden mist in the Golden Valley came from. The myriad poison liquid was a special kind of spiritual liquid that could only be formed by the convergence of countless kinds of highly toxic substances. Rather than calling it a spiritual liquid, it would be better to say that it was the condensation of the myriad poison evil chi. And this kind of evil chi had a name. It was called the myriad poison meteor evil chi. This kind of evil chi was very easy to collect. Generally, it could be collected by gathering dozens of kinds of poisonous things. However, to collect pure myriad poison falling evil chi, thousands of kinds of poisonous things must be gathered, and after dozens of years, a small pool of myriad poison liquid could be formed. However, for such a large pool of myriad poison liquid to be formed in the Golden Valley of the Seven Stars Celestial Sect, and it was golden in color, it could only be brewed in an environment like the Golden Valley of the Seven Stars Celestial Sect for tens of thousands of years. This kind of pure evil chi was a necessary condition for the cultivation of a magical power in the North Sea Wave listening spell. Lu Ping wondered how he could take away such a large pool of myriad poison liquid. Lu Ping put a jade crystal bottle on the ground and displayed the water manipulation spell. He took a ball of myriad poison liquid from the pool and put it into the jade crystal bottle. Unexpectedly, as soon as the myriad poison liquid was picked up, it dripped down. Lu Ping's magical power was corroded by the myriad poison liquid and was riddled with holes. Lu Ping hurriedly increased the input of magical power. Finally, the speed of the magical power transmission was faster than the speed of the myriad poison liquid's corrosion. With great difficulty, he put the myriad poison liquid into the jade crystal bottle. However, the jade crystal bottle was like a bottle made of ice, filled with boiling water. In an instant, it turned into a cloud of green smoke. The myriad poison liquid spilled on the ground, and a thick golden fog rose and dispersed in the air. Lu Ping looked at the scene helplessly. He wanted to cast the water curtain heaven splendor here and absorb the meteorite essence of myriad poisons to cultivate that innate skill. However, the cultivation of innate skills wasn't something that could be achieved overnight. He still needed to make many preparations, and 2 hours was obviously not enough. Just as Lu Ping was at his wit's end, he suddenly discovered that there were many large bluestones in this small pool of myriad poison liquid. This made Lu Ping quite surprised. Lu Ping casually picked up a large bluestone in his hand and carefully examined it with his divine sense. He discovered that this bluestone was an ordinary stone used by mortals to build houses. Lu Ping hollowed out a bluestone and made it into a bluestone bottle. Then, he used his magical power to absorb a cloud of myriad poison liquid into the bluestone bottle. He found that the myriad poison liquid did not corrode the bottle wall, but it slowly turned into a golden fog and evaporated. Lu Ping made a bluestone lid and firmly sealed the mouth of the bottle. Then, he made 9 huge bluestone bottles, all of which were filled with myriad poison liquid. Lu Ping estimated that this amount of myriad poison liquid was enough for him to cultivate his magical power. Only then did he stop. 1/5 of the myriad poison liquid in the small pool had already been taken away. Just as Lu Ping was about to leave, a fist-sized colorless liquid suddenly surged from the bottom of the myriad poison liquid. It rolled back and forth above the surface of the myriad poison liquid, but it did not melt with the myriad poison liquid. When the colorless liquid appeared, the dense golden fog above the small pool actually had a tendency to converge towards the small pool. At the same time, Lu Ping's divine sense also discovered that there was an invisible evil chi constantly converging towards the small pool from all directions of the Golden Fallen Valley. Lu Ping was very clear that this evil chi was the myriad poison meteorite evil chi. However, this evil chi was obviously very thin and not pure enough. But when all the evil chi converged above the small pool, it actually formed a golden cloud. Then, golden raindrops fell sparsely and fell into the small pool. If these golden raindrops were not myriad poison liquid, then what were they? The golden raindrops only dropped a few dozen drops before they stopped. The amount of myriad poison liquid that increased was only about half of what was in Lu Ping's bluestone bottle. It seemed that this was the self-recovery function of the myriad poison liquid, but obviously, this process could not be completed in a short period of time. However, Lu Ping looked at the colorless liquid on the surface of the myriad poison liquid and became ecstatic. It was born in a highly poisonous object, and it was full of spirituality rolling on the surface of the myriad poison liquid, automatically adjusting the amount of myriad poison liquid. This was definitely a kind of spirit water of heaven and earth. Moreover, it was hidden in this rare golden myriad poison liquid, so its level was definitely not too low. Lu Ping slowly displayed the water control technique to hold this spirit water of heaven and earth. However, he faintly found that the spirit water was resisting Lu Ping's control. Sure enough, it had spirituality. Lu Ping was even more delighted. He increased the control of his magic power, intending to completely absorb this spirit water of heaven and earth. However, he found that this spirit water of heaven and earth had suddenly divided into 2 parts. One part was only 1/3 the size of the original spirit water of heaven and earth, and it was controlled by Lu Ping's water control technique to fly over. Lu Ping put this small ball of spirit water into a bluestone bottle and mixed it with the myriad poison liquid inside. He found that the spirit water of heaven and earth seemed to have reduced a lot of spirituality, and it looked listless. However, the myriad poison liquid in the bluestone bottle no longer turned into a golden mist and evaporated, even though Lu Ping did not seal the bottle. Lu Ping seemed to understand something. Looking at the big bluestone that had originally blocked the small pool, Lu Ping used the Qinghan sword to cut a few times, and opened up a huge space in the bluestone. Then, he poured all 10 bottles of myriad poison liquid into the bluestone vat. The small ball of spirit water of heaven and earth rolled in the bluestone vat, and it recovered some vitality. Lu Ping did not have to worry about the myriad poison liquid evaporating. When Lu Ping looked at the other ball of spirit water, he found that the bigger ball of spirit water had sunk to the bottom of the pool of myriad poison liquid. Lu Ping found that the surrounding golden mist had become a lot lighter, and the corrosion of the water curtain heaven flower had also weakened. Lu Ping secretly thought that this spirit water of heaven and earth and myriad poison liquid had a mutually reinforcing and restraining relationship. The myriad poison liquid nourished the spirit water of heaven and earth, and the spirit water of heaven and earth helped the myriad poison liquid gather the myriad poison meteorite evil chi, and at the same time restrained the myriad poison meteorite evil chi from spreading outside the Golden Fallen Canyon. Lu Ping quickly walked around the core area, and found a few skeletons, obviously belonging to the core forging stage Daoist masters, but many of the skeletons had traces of being turned over, but these traces were obviously not the same time, and there was no new layer of soil on the ground. It seemed that there were many cultivators who could enter the core area. However, the age of these skeletons was obviously too long, and even if there were treasures such as magic weapons, they had all been corroded by the golden meteorite evil chi. Fortunately, he found a few rare 1,000-year-old spirit grasses. Lu Ping wanted to continue looking for more spirit grasses, but Samling had reached his limit, and his own magic power was also consumed, so he had to quickly leave the core area. As soon as Lu Ping left the golden core area, Samling fainted. Lu Ping carefully examined him, but his magic power had been consumed too much, and he estimated that it would take dozens of days to recover. It was probably impossible for him to enter the core area again, unless he used the myriad poison meteorite evil chi to condense the advanced spell of water curtain heaven flower. However, this was not something that could be done overnight, so Lu Ping had no choice but to walk out of the golden fallen canyon. Although Samling had consumed a lot of vitality, he had breathed in a large amount of golden poisonous mist, which contained pure poisonous gas of the myriad poison meteorite evil chi. If all of it was refined, Samling's magic power would undoubtedly be greatly enhanced, and it could be said that he would benefit greatly. What was the situation outside the golden fallen canyon at this time? Chapter 171. Lu Ping had used up a lot of magic power in the past few days in the golden fallen canyon. At the same time, he had swallowed a lot of pills to recover his spiritual power, causing the medicinal effects to accumulate in his body. If he didn't refine them in time, it would affect his future cultivation. Therefore, after Lu Ping came out of the golden core area, he didn't stay in the inner area of the golden fallen canyon for long. Instead, he chose a different direction and went straight out of the canyon. Lu Ping guessed that the original entrance to the golden fallen canyon was already being watched. Right now, Lu Ping's strength wasn't at its peak, so he chose to avoid the original path. However, it wasn't easy for Lu Ping to avoid trouble. Just as Lu Ping walked out of the golden mist, he found himself surrounded. TSK, a level 7 blood condensation realm cultivator actually dared to enter the golden fallen canyon alone. How daring! A guy walked in front of Lu Ping with a sarcastic expression. As he spoke, 4 cultivators slowly revealed themselves and surrounded Lu Ping. Kid, looking at your cultivation, you won't be able to last long in the golden fallen canyon. However, you should have gained something, right? Take it out and show us. If we like it, we'll trade it with you. How about it? The one who spoke was the same cultivator from before. Oh, then what's the price? Lu Ping remained calm and secretly circulated his magic power. At the same time, he scanned his surroundings and the cultivation of the cultivators who robbed him. Hehe, the price is absolutely fair. A 500-year-old spirit herb costs 1 low-grade spirit stone, and a 1,000-year-old spirit herb costs 2. The cultivator in front of him shook his head with a mocking expression. This group of cultivators should be a small group formed by rogue cultivators. They specialized in robbing lone cultivators. The nameless cultivator was at the level 7 or 8 blood condensation realm, so he wasn't weak. Lu Ping took out a mid-grade mystic instrument that he obtained from an unlucky bastard. He waved it around and said solemnly, "It's too cheap. If it was a 500-year-old spirit herb for a top-grade spirit stone, I might consider it. That's too cheap." The cultivator in front of him looked at the mid-grade magic artifact in Lu Ping's hand and a look of disdain flashed across his face. When he heard Lu Ping's words, he sneered and said, "You are courting death. You can't blame others. Everyone, attack together. Kill this fellow first and then divide his items." Lu Ping's mana was greatly depleted. He did not want to be entangled with them any longer. Just as the 5 of them were about to take out their magic artifacts, they saw a wave of sword light shooting towards them in all directions. The sword light flickered erratically and was clearly extremely powerful. This was not the power of a mid-grade magic artifact. The 5 of them immediately realized that this cultivator in front of them was not simple. They quickly used their own defensive methods. The cultivator in front of Lu Ping immediately realized something was wrong when Lu Ping launched the first attack. Just as he was about to defend himself, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Unbeknownst to him, a few streams of water had tied him up, and his cultivation base was also restrained. Just as he was about to call for help, a clear sound rang out. A gust of wind carrying a surging arcane energy rushed into his mouth, forcefully interrupting his call for help. Immediately after, the cultivator's shoulders tightened. A pair of iron claws had already pierced into his shoulders. The cultivator wanted to cry out in pain, but he couldn't make a sound. Then, his feet left the ground and he flew out of the valley. On a nameless hill far away from the Golden Valley, Lu Ping looked at the cultivator who was like a lump of mud in front of him and asked, "You've got guts." A few rogue cultivators dare to occupy one of the exits of the Golden Valley to rob. Aren't you afraid of encountering cultivators from other sects and sects? The cultivator had a sad expression on his face. Obviously, he had been tortured by Lu Ping. Hearing this, he hurriedly said, "I'm as blind as a bat." These days, most of the cultivators in the Seven Stars Heaven have rushed to the Seven Stars Temple. The rest are some rogue cultivators and lone cultivators. That's why I dared to rob outside the Golden Valley with a few friends. I didn't know. Lu Ping waved his hand to interrupt him and asked, "What kind of place is the Seven Stars Temple?" The cultivator looked at Lu Ping in surprise, but he still answered obediently, "The Seven Stars Temple is the place where the seven Laozu, who founded the Seven Stars Heaven, opened the altar and preached. It is located in the center of the Seven Stars Heaven. Every time the Seven Stars Heaven appears, the restrictions in the Seven Stars Temple will weaken, and some treasures will always be spat out of the temple. Everyone is waiting for the opportunity there. When the time comes to fight for the treasures, a chaotic battle is inevitable." Lu Ping asked curiously, "The Seven Stars Heaven has been opened dozens of times in the past 10,000 years. How many treasures are there in the Seven Stars Temple to spit out?" The seven cultivators shook their heads and said, "How would I know?" But when the five Laozu who had surpassed the Dharma phase went their separate ways, a great battle almost destroyed the Seven Stars Heaven. One of the Laozu once said that the Seven Stars Temple collected some treasures that the seven Laozu had collected when they were young. For them at that time, it was already nothing in their eyes. It was just an opportunity given to the cultivators of the North Sea later on. The seven Laozu were famous in the North Sea. Whether it was the human cultivators or the demon cultivators, they had received a lot of kindness from them. Out of respect, the cultivators of the North Sea would also give some gifts every time they paid a visit. Therefore, no one knows how many treasures there are in the Seven Stars Temple, but every time the Seven Stars Heaven opens, the treasures that the Seven Stars Temple spat out are definitely not small. Lu Ping knew very little about these things, but now that he was listening to the guy in front of him talk about it, he was quite interested. Looking at the hopeful face of the cultivator, Lu Ping chuckled and said, "Tell me about the situation in the Seven Stars Heaven in the past few days. If you tell me well, I'll let you go. If not," Lu Ping had a "you understand" expression on his face. The cultivator was like a drowning man who had grabbed onto a piece of driftwood. He hurriedly told Lu Ping everything that had happened recently, regardless of whether it was big or small, real or fake, for fear of missing out on anything. 2 days later, Lu Ping, who had recovered all of his magic power and adjusted his state, returned the storage bag that originally belonged to the captured cultivator to him. The cultivator opened it and saw that there were no spirit herbs, spirit materials, or spirit stones left. There were only 2 magic tools, one offensive and one defensive, and a few bottles of pills to restore spirit energy. Lu Ping ignored the cultivator who wanted to cry but had no tears. He directly left the cave and walked in the direction of the Seven Stars Heaven. It seemed that many exciting stories had happened in the past few days in the Golden Fallen Canyon. Liao who had received his warning, but after leaving the Golden Fallen Canyon, he was still ambushed by the Mistwater Pavilion cultivators led by He Listen. After a great battle, the Liao clan cultivators were all dead and only Liao who escaped with serious injuries. However, the Mistwater Pavilion didn't get any benefits either. Not only did they not get the heart-dissolving pill recipe, but they were also caught off guard by the cultivators from the Overflowing Oceans sect who followed them. A third of their cultivators were killed or injured, and they lost a lot of their harvest in the Seven Stars Heaven. After that, the Ocean Flame sect's Peng Changqing, one of the famous Northern Sea's 18 generals, was killed by Xianling sect's genius cultivator, Ouyang Wei Jian. Rumors spread that after the Seven Stars Heaven closed, Xianling sect would have 3 spots in the Northern Sea's 18 generals, surpassing Zhenling in one fell swoop. After that, the Western Tomb Islands Ari clan spread news that before Peng Changqing was killed, he was severely injured by a cultivator from the Ari clan and Zhenling Lu Ping. However, everyone was skeptical of this news. After all, many people had witnessed Ouyang Weijian killing Peng Changqing, but the Ari clan cultivators had never seen Lu Ping and Ari Shudao injure Peng Changqing. Chapter 172. The news that Lu Ping and Ari Shudao had joined forces to severely injure Peng Changqing did not attract much attention. Instead, one of the 2 cultivators from Zhenling who had joined forces to repel Miao Weidong, one of the 18 generals of the North Sea from Xianling sect, a cultivator named Yin Zichu confronted Ouyang Weijian. The 2 fought fiercely, and in the end, Ouyang Weijian, whose cultivation was 1 level higher than Yin Zichu, won. Yin Zichu was injured and retreated. Ouyang Weijian wanted to chase after him, but he encountered another cultivator from Zhenling, Ji Zishuan, who had come to Yin Zichu's aid. The 3 fought again, but halfway through, they were interrupted by cultivators from both sects. Lu Ping did not expect that the cold-looking Yin Zichu would be so hot-blooded. This Ouyang Weijian reminded Lu Ping of the pale-faced cultivator from Xianling sect who attacked him from behind during his battle with the primordial giant crocodile. There was also a lot of news from the demon race. In addition to the battles between human and demon cultivators, the most famous one was a demon cultivator known as Jin Young Master. This person had defeated Qi Zicai of Zhenling and Miao Weidong of Xianling sect, but for some reason, he did not kill them. During the encounter with the cultivators of Feiyu School, a hidden core forging stage Daoist master of Feiyu School was forced to expose the Jin Yuan of his core forging stage by Genie Young Master's sword, and was then sent out of the 7-star sky. The cultivators of Filing School, who had lost the deterrence of a core forging stage Daoist master, were slaughtered by the demon cultivators who followed Genie Young Master. Only a few cultivators of Filing School who were quick enough to escape. After the incident with the Feiyu sect, the rumor that Jin Gongzi had mastered the sword technique in 10th realm began to spread. Many cultivators began to speculate that the cultivators of the various sects were like the Feiyu sect, hiding enlightened masters with their cultivation sealed. This was also the reason why the various sects were able to maintain a great deal of restraint. After all, enlightened masters would be teleported out of the 7-star sky when they broke the seal. However, they could still launch an attack before being teleported. A full-powered attack from a core forging enlightened master was a disaster for any blood condensation realm cultivator, even if they were only at the early core forging realm. There was another thing that caught Lu Ping's attention. Amidst the many killings and conflicts, Lu Ping had discovered the figures of the overturned Seas gang several times. They were like ghosts hiding in the dark. The cultivators of the overturned Seas gang split up and roamed around the 7-star skies, sowing discord, taking advantage of others' misfortune, assassinating and launching sneak attacks. All sorts of methods emerged one after another. Although there were conflicts between the other human cultivator factions, when faced with the Yarrow race cultivators, they could at least work together to fight against the common enemy. However, the overturned Seas gang had no principles and killed indiscriminately. They were also exceptionally cunning. The various factions within the 7-star skies were constantly in conflict because of them. Many powers had reached a tacit agreement to join forces to deal with the overturned Seas gang. However, they could not find the overturned Seas gang's base. Even if they did find the cultivators of the overturned Seas gang, they would only be small fries. This caused the overturned Seas gang to be more vigilant and hide even deeper. Lu Ping was still wearing the red mask, but he no longer concealed his cultivation. Hiding his cultivation in the 7-star sky would only attract the attention of many cultivators with ulterior motives. It was very difficult to kill a cultivator of the same level in a one-on-one fight. In order to surround and kill a cultivator of the same level, 3 cultivators of the same level had to make all sorts of arrangements beforehand to prevent the opponent from escaping. After all, cultivators like Lu Ping who could challenge those of a higher level were few and far between. The Seven Stars Temple was located in the center of the seven-star sky. In the past, when the 5 Laozu of the seven-star sky fought, the center of the battle was the center of the seven-star sky. However, after the battle, the seven-star sky was completely destroyed while the Seven Stars Temple remained unscathed. One could not help but marvel at the shocking methods of the Laozu. In the center of the seven-star sky, there was a huge pit that spread out in all directions. It was said that during the battle between the 5 Laozu of the seven-star sky, this was the result of the overflowing magic power. This huge pit had flattened everything in the seven-star sky except for the Seven Stars Temple. Now, all that was left were the weeds and trees that had grown after the battle, along with the occasional spirit herb and spirit material. Along the way, with the cooperation of Dabao and Lu Qin, Lu Ping naturally plowed through all the spirit herbs and spirit materials that he came across. However, it was clear that the harvest in these places could not be compared to the harvest in the Golden Fallen Canyon. In the past few days, Lu Ping had broken the divine sense seal on the storage bracelet obtained from the Golden Fallen Canyon. Thanks to Lu Ping's divine sense that was far stronger than ordinary people, otherwise, it would have taken him twice the time. However, the items in the storage bracelet made Lu Ping somewhat disappointed. After all, this was the first space item of a core forging master that Lu Ping had obtained, but it was not the dazzling variety of treasures that Lu Ping had imagined. Fortunately, after all, it was the collection of a core forging master. There were not many items, but the quality was more or less guaranteed. Lu Ping was too lazy to count the spirit stones. It added up to no more than 100,000. Lu Ping's own spirit stones were far more than this number. This was also the reason why Lu Ping was quite disappointed at first. However, the 5 or 6 high-grade spirit stones inside made Lu Ping's eyes light up. After all, spirit stones had reached high grade, and they had many more uses. Even Lu Ping had only collected 4 or 5 high-grade spirit stones so far, and he had been reluctant to use them. There were many jade boxes containing spirit herbs. Lu Ping checked the nearly 100 rare thousand-year-old spirit herbs sealed inside. Obviously, they were picked in the inner layer of the Golden Fallen Canyon. The medicinal properties inside were preserved very well, and not much had been lost. It could be seen that the person who picked them was quite experienced. There were few medicinal pills left, which made Lu Ping wonder if the owner of this storage bracelet engraved with the word Liao was a cultivator of the Golden Orange Islands Liao family, which was famous for alchemy. Fortunately, there was an answer to this question, a pill recipe for the heart-dissolving pill. Lu Ping did not know why such a precious pill recipe would be recorded in a jade slip, but Lu Ping carefully checked the contents of the pill recipe and found that there was no mistake. This was indeed the pill recipe for the heart-dissolving pill. Then, this core forging realm cultivator who fell in the Golden Fallen Canyon was indeed a member of the Golden Orange Islands Liao family. Subsequently, it was further confirmed that this cultivator was not only a cultivator of the Liao family, but also Liao whose grandfather, Daoist Master Liao Ding, who had gone missing in the seven-star sky 300 years ago. The jade slip recorded in detail the various spirit herbs that Daoist Master Liao Ding had seen, as well as their medicinal properties, growing environment, and growing place. Lu Ping felt as if he had obtained a treasure. Although this jade slip was not the inheritance jade slip of an alchemist, it was a jade slip that every alchemist must have. An alchemist must record all kinds of information related to alchemy at any time and anywhere. This was an important accumulation for an alchemist, second only to the inheritance of an alchemist. Lu Ping did not have time to check the details of the jade slip, so he copied the contents of the entire jade slip into his own jade slip. On the trip to the Golden Fallen Canyon, Lu Ping had harvested a lot of unknown rare thousand-year-old spirit herbs, as well as the 9 spirit herbs that were obviously more than 3,000 years old. Lu Ping was worried about not knowing the situation of these spirit herbs, but now a pillow was sent to him just as he was about to doze off. Lu Ping held a medicinal pestle in his hand and felt a faint sense of resistance. Lu Ping used his spiritual sense to investigate, but found that there was no restriction formed in the medicinal pestle, but a more mysterious and complex restriction was contained. Lu Ping was delighted in his heart. Was this a magic weapon? Could it be that the strange restriction inside was the treasure restriction that Chen Lian had told him about in order to refine magic weapons? Under the joy, Lu Ping penetrated his spiritual sense into the treasure restriction, and at the same time, his spiritual power poured into the medicinal pestle, intending to refine this magic weapon. This was the first magic weapon that Lu Ping had obtained. At this moment, the medicinal pestle suddenly began to frantically devour Lu Ping's spiritual power and spiritual sense. The medicinal pestle was like a bottomless pit that could not be filled. Fortunately, Lu Ping could still control his arcane energy and divine sense. He let out a long sigh of relief and slowly wrapped his divine sense around the two identical enchantment seals on the mystic treasure. At the same time, he also used his arcane energy to infuse the mystic treasure layer by layer. Only then could the mystic treasure familiarize itself with its master's arcane energy and aura, allowing the mystic treasure to unleash its greatest power in battle. This was what cultivators often referred to as mystic treasure refinement and mystic treasure recognition. Of course, this situation was under the circumstance that the original owner, Liao Ding, had died. That was why Lu Ping could so easily refine the medicinal pestle. With Lu Ping's spiritual power and spiritual sense, refining the medicinal pestle consumed almost half of his spiritual power and spiritual sense. In other words, Lu Ping could barely use this magic weapon twice before he ran out of spiritual power and was at the mercy of others. This was also because the spiritual power and spiritual sense of a blood condensation cultivator were too weak. If a cultivator reached the core forging stage, their spiritual power would condense into spiritual essence, and their spiritual sense would transform into spiritual sense, which would make it much easier for them to control magic weapons. Lu Ping found a secluded place and hid to recover his spiritual power and spiritual sense. At the same time, he took out the last item in the storage bracelet. Lu Ping was quite dispirited as he threw the jade slip into his own storage bracelet. It was actually another jade slip sealed with spiritual sense. Lu Ping currently had 2 jade slips sealed with spiritual sense. One was from the cave of a late core forging enlightened master on Failing Island, and the other was from Liao Ding's remains in the Golden Fallen Canyon. Lu Ping could only patiently wait until he reached the core forging stage. Once his spiritual sense transformed into spiritual sense, he would be able to uncover the secrets inside. In addition to the amethyst royal jelly, amethyst wasp eggs, and the rare 1,000-year-old and 3,000-year-old spirit herbs and golden core fruit trees, Lu Ping could be said to have a great harvest. These harvests could even make a core forging enlightened master go crazy. However, these were not the most important. The most important thing was the vat of myriad poison origin aura that Lu Ping brought out from the golden core area. The myriad poison origin aura was transformed from the myriad poison origin aura, and the small ball of heaven and earth spirit water that was definitely higher than profound level. Of these 2 items, the myriad poison origin aura was related to the advancement of Lu Ping's water curtain heaven flower, and the heaven and earth spirit water was the key to whether or not Lu Ping could make a breakthrough after he reached the core forging stage. Even now, Lu Ping still didn't know what kind of heaven and earth spirit water he obtained. Chapter 173. After recovering his magic power, Lu Ping was getting closer and closer to 7 Stars Temple. On this day, Lu Ping saw a forest in the distance. Suddenly, the jade slip that Ji Zixuan gave him vibrated. Lu Ping was overjoyed. It seemed like he would be able to meet up with the cultivators of his sect soon. Lu Ping hurriedly ran towards the forest. It wasn't that Lu Ping didn't want to sit on Lu Qin's back. It was just that flying mounts were too conspicuous. In a place like 7 Stars Temple where danger lurked everywhere, it was extremely easy to become a target. When he neared the forest, Lu Ping frowned. Ji Zixuan and Yin Zichu should have known about his arrival. However, Lu Ping had already walked out of the forest, and the 2 didn't come out to greet him. Lu Ping looked at the quiet forest. After thinking for a moment, he spread out his divine sense and quietly snuck into the forest. The 2 of you must be the true spirit duo that joined forces to repel Xianling sect's Miao Weidong? In the forest, the leader of the 5 men in black, who were facing off against Ji Zixuan and Yin Zichu, sneered and asked. Cowardly rats who hide their heads and show their tails. You must be the rats that the overflowing sea gang detests, right? Why don't you find a hole in Seven Stars Temple to hide in? Aren't you afraid of being exposed to the light? Lu Ping didn't expect the usually gentle and refined Ji Zishuan to have such a sharp tongue. The overflowing sea gang's leader's face flashed with anger. Ignoring Ji Zishuan's mockery, he continued, 10 days ago, my overflowing sea gang gathered more than 20 cultivators and fought a group of cultivators called Ari Buatao. I fought with Ari Buatao for more than 10 rounds without a clear winner. I don't know if the two of you will be able to survive under the combined attacks of the 5 of us. Yin Zichu directly held 2 top-grade short swords in his hands and said coldly, why don't you try and find out? The leading cultivator from the overturned Seas clan was about to say something when Yin Zichu suddenly disappeared in a flash to the right. The leading cultivator was startled and shouted to the cultivator on his left, watch out. With a flick of his left hand, the leading cultivator's sleeve suddenly elongated, transforming into a cloth barrier. He intended to wrap up the leftmost cultivator. However, the cloth barrier had only extended for a distance of 3 zhong when a wooden monkey jumped over from the side and smashed into the cloth barrier. Ah! A blood-curdling scream rang out. A cultivator from the overturned Seas gang who was furthest away had been heavily injured by Yin Zichu's sneak attack. One of his arms was sent flying into the sky. Bastard! Surround them and attack with everything you've got. Don't leave any survivors. The leading cultivator was furious. He didn't expect that one of them would be seriously injured the moment they arrived. The leading cultivator took the lead and shot out his flying cloud sleeve, blocking Yin Zichu who was about to kill him. The 2 cultivators on the left and right stepped forward to support him, causing the heavily injured cultivator from the overturned Seas clan to retreat. The leading overturned Seas gang cultivator made a grabbing motion in the air. A 9-edged 3 feet long crystal mace appeared in his hand, and he swung it at Ji Zishuan. Ji Zishuan saw that Yin Zichu was being held up by the other 3 overturned Seas gang members. Although Yin Zichu's movements were extremely fast and he was fighting with the 3, trying his best not to fall into their encirclement, the 3 overturned Seas gang members had clearly thought of a way to restrain the 2 of them. Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu had grown up together. Their minds were connected, and they had a tacit understanding of each other. When the 2 of them worked together, they weren't just 2 7th-layer blood condensation cultivators. Although the 3 overturned Seas gang members couldn't keep up with Yin Zichu's speed and sharp swordsmanship, they could coordinate with each other to prevent Yin Zichu from getting close to Ji Zishuan. Ji Zishuan had no choice but to release 2 late blood condensation puppets. One of them was an iron-armored warrior puppet. It swung a large sword and clashed with the incoming crystal mace. The crystal mace was sent flying, but the iron-armored warrior was forced back a few steps. A large crack appeared on the surface of the sword, and its arms creaked as if they were about to fall off from the impact of the crystal mace. The corner of Ji Zishuan's eyes twitched, and his heart ached. This iron-armored puppet was his proudest creation. Ji Zishuan hurriedly commanded the black-armored puppet that Lu Ping had seen before to help him. Ji Zishuan, who was already controlling 2 puppets, didn't have any more magic power or divine sense to participate in the battle. He could only take out the octagonal shield to protect himself. At this moment, Lu Ping was hiding about 100 feet away from the battle. This was a place where the divine sense of both sides couldn't reach. Lu Ping could clearly grasp the situation of the battle in the forest. Lu Ping's invisibility technique was too lousy. He would be easily discovered if he was within the range of the divine sense of others. The leading cultivator from the overturned Sea gang was clearly not weak. If Lu Ping was discovered, he would lose the element of surprise. At this moment, Ji Zishuan was in a precarious situation. Yin Zichu was also entangled by 3 cultivators from the overturned Sea gang who had higher cultivation than him. He couldn't even take care of himself. The leading cultivator felt that he had the situation under control. He said proudly, "Are the 2 of you still going to fight like trapped beasts? If you know what's good for you, take out the magic treasures you obtained last time and let us have a look. Who knows, once you use your magic treasures, we might lose to you too." Lu Ping used the invisibility technique and advanced another 20 to 30 feet. Fortunately, the overturned sea gang had the upper hand, and their guard was down. Lu Ping was not discovered. Yin Zichu's two swords danced in the air, sending out 128 sword lights towards the three cultivators from the overturned sea gang. He was actually only one step away from the force realm. The three did not expect Yin Zichu to suddenly erupt, and they quickly defended themselves. Yin Zichu suddenly shook off the three of them, and sped towards the direction where Lu Ping was hiding. Not good, he's trying to escape. Abandoning his companions, Zhenling is nothing more than this. Can he escape? He must have expended a lot of transcendence energy in those two swords. He won't be able to get far before his transcendence energy runs out. The three cultivators from the overturned sea gang chased after him as they cursed. Yin Zichu ran for a few dozen feet, and as expected, his speed slowed down. It was as if he really had run out of energy. The three of them were overjoyed. They shouted as they raised their magic treasures and smashed them towards Yin Zichu's back. Yin Zichu had no choice but to turn around and use his two swords to defend himself. However, he could only barely block two of the magic treasures. Seeing that the third magic treasure was about to shatter Yin Zichu's protective chi barrier and severely injure him, the cultivators from the overturned sea gang were overjoyed. However, they did not notice the mocking expression in Yin Zichu's eyes. A cyan-colored sword beam suddenly shot out from behind a large tree behind Yin Zichu to knock the third magic artifact flying. Next, the sword beam, which had yet to dissipate its power, continued charging towards one of the cultivators. The cultivator was suddenly ambushed, and he cried out in alarm. He hurriedly raised his protective magic treasure in front of him, but a series of metallic clangs struck the high-grade magic treasure in an instant, shattering it into pieces. The cultivator's two magic treasures were heavily damaged, and his chest felt heavy. He could not care less about spitting out the blood in his mouth, and hurriedly retreated in the direction of the other two cultivators, intending to seek support. However, it was too late. The cultivator suddenly felt a chill on his chest. When he looked down, he saw that there were two needle holes in the front of his shirt, and 2 drops of bright red were expanding on his shirt. Chapter 174. With the cooperation of Yin Zichu, Lu Ping caught them off guard and killed one of the cultivators from the overturned Sea's gang. The other two shouted angrily, "Not good, there's an ambush. Be careful, this person's sword technique is strange." The cultivator who had just broken the sword of Ji Zishuan's armored puppet heard his subordinates shout and immediately looked back. He saw a red-faced cultivator wielding a green flying sword in his hand, creating a dense layer of sword light in the air. It was as if a white wave had surged out of nowhere, encircling one of the remaining 2 cultivators. The leading cultivator was shocked. "Be careful, this is sword intent, this person's swordsmanship has already reached the intent realm." What responded to him was an arm that soared into the sky and a blood-curdling scream. The leading cultivator's eyes were bloodshot as he attacked Ji Zishuan with all his might, intending to take down Ji Zishuan and then support the other 2. According to the information obtained by the leading cultivator, the magic treasure that Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu obtained should be on the puppet cultivator in front of him. As long as he obtained this magic treasure, this mission would be considered complete. The leading cultivator used his flying cloud sleeve to roll the black armored puppet and took the opportunity to use the jade-shattering heavenly spirit, shattering the left arm of the armored puppet. Just as he was about to further expand the battle, 2 cold sword chi had already rushed towards the back of the leading cultivator's head. The leading cultivator dodged to the side, the crystal gem in his hand also slowed down. Ji Zishuan, who had commanded the armored puppet to avoid the disaster, had already regrouped with Yin Zichu. The leading cultivator cursed under his breath and turned to look to the side, only to see the red-faced cultivator using a flying sword to suppress his 2 subordinates to the point where they were unable to fight back. Moreover, the red-faced cultivator still had an expression of ease. The leading cultivator knew that today's matter was difficult to accomplish, so he turned to retreat. Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu had almost suffered a big loss, so how could they be willing to give up? The black armored puppet's armor transformed into a pair of wings, and instantly blocked in front of them. Yin Zichu had already brandished his 2 swords and chased after them. Ji Zishuan put away the armored puppet that had lost its weapon and 1 arm. With a wave of his hand, 9 different kinds of carving knives stabbed at different parts of the leading cultivator, as if he wanted to carve him into something. Ji Zishuan came from the puppet hall and usually used the puppets he made to fight with others. Now that he was suddenly like the other cultivators, using his Dharma artifacts to attack, it caused Lu Ping, who was watching them fight, to feel a sense of amazement. Only now did Lu Ping realize that Ji Zishuan was a cultivator after all. Other than using puppets, he could also control magic tools to fight with the enemy like other cultivators. Ji Zishuan's attack method was very special. The 9 carving knives did not attack vital parts, but some unimportant parts of the body. These parts were often the parts that cultivators paid the least attention to and did not care about defending, making it very easy for Ji Zishuan's attack to succeed. This was an attack method that accumulated a small amount of power to achieve a great result. However, it had very high requirements for the cultivator who used this attack method. Eyesight, movement, coordination, patience, courage, perseverance, and so on, all of these auxiliary conditions were indispensable. Lu Ping quickly attacked with the Qinghan sword twice. The 2 people who were surrounded by Lu Ping's sword technique resisted with all their strength. Unfortunately, one of them was missing an arm, so they were unable to form an effective cooperation. Lu Ping flicked out 2 jade blood needles and killed the 2 cultivators from the overturned Sea's gang who were stubbornly resisting. The leading cultivator was worthy of being a figure who was on par with the 18 generals of the North Sea. He wrapped the black armored puppet with his flying cloud sleeve and smashed the crystal mace over. Yin Zichu did not dare to take it head-on and retreated. Then, the long mace swept horizontally and knocked away 6 of Ji Zishuan's 9 carving knives. The other 3 knives only left 2 bloody marks on his legs and shoulders. One of the knives stabbed into his abdomen, but it did not break through his protective aura. At this time, Lu Ping had already killed 2 people and was rushing over here. The leading cultivator saw that things were not going well, so he turned into a silver light and fled out of the forest. Just as the cultivator was about to escape from the forest, there was suddenly a clear cry above his head. A green flame suddenly sprayed towards the cultivator who had arrived at the entrance of the forest. The cultivator turned pale with fright. This was the demonic beast's natal true fire. Moreover, the true fire's level was not low. If he were to crash into it, even if he didn't die, he would still lose a layer of skin. With such a delay, Lu Ping's 1000 snowpile sword art surged over and engulfed the cultivator in the raging waves. Ji and Yin Zichuan turned into ocean killers hiding under the waves, waiting for an opportunity to strike when the cultivator had no time to pay attention to anything else. The 3 of them put away their magic tools. The cultivator was already deader than dead. Lu Ping shook his head and said, "Junior Marshal Brother Ji, the way you kill people is really special." Ji Zishuan giggled and said, "Who told him to break my puppet? Otherwise, I wouldn't have to personally go into battle." "That's right, Senior Marshal Brother Lu has been in the 7 stars heaven these days. Why did I only see you after 2 months? Lu Ping roughly recounted what had happened to him these past few days. Naturally, he hid what he shouldn't say. Ji Zishuan's eyes lit up and he said, "Senior Marshal Brother actually went to the Golden Fallen Canyon? That's really admirable. There's also the purple crystal royal jelly. This time, after leaving the 7 stars heaven, I have to give Junior Marshal Brother some. Soaking it in water can increase your cultivation." Lu Ping slapped his forehead and said helplessly, "You're simply wasting natural resources. This is royal jelly, not purple crystal honey. I don't even have enough to refine pills, and you still want to soak it in water? Not a chance." Ji Zishuan had a mischievous look on his face and started to clamor for Lu Ping to help him refine the royal jelly pill. He would pay for the spirit herbs himself. Lu Ping was being pestered until his head was dizzy and he could only agree. Yin Zichu walked over and brought over 5 storage pouches. He said, "There's still one who was unconscious after being severely injured by me. I've already restrained his cultivation. How should we deal with him?" There were very few items related to the overturned Seas gang in the 5 storage pouches. This was very similar to the overturned Seas gang cultivators that Lu Ping had killed before. However, there were quite a few other miscellaneous items. It was obvious that they hadn't had time to organize them. Presumably, they were obtained from robbing other cultivators in the 7 Stars Heaven. Lu Ping took all the spirit herbs from within. The two knew that Lu Ping was an alchemist, so they naturally wouldn't stop him. There were still quite a few good items left. There were 2 top-grade magic tools, which Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu divided equally. Ji Zishuan asked for the crystal mace, saying that he wanted to give it to his iron-armored warrior. Lu Ping found a hexagonal jade tablet in the storage pouch of the leading cultivator. It was exactly the same as the one he had obtained from Yuan Shikong. On one side, there was a sparkling palace, while on the other side, there was a seal character, Ping, held up by surging waves. Could this person be the hall master of the overturned Seas gang's Calm Seas Hall? Lu Ping kept the jade tablet. Ji Zishuan said with a covetous expression, "Looks like robbing is the way to go." After saying that, he clicked his tongue, his face full of envy. Yin Zichu also had a look of agreement on the side. It was rare for his face to have some expression. Lu Ping looked at the two of them, speechless. It was one thing for Yin Zichu to be like this, but this Ji Zishuan was usually gentle and refined, looking like a gentleman. Why did he suddenly look like a money grubber? Lu Ping looked at the unconscious overturned Seas gang cultivator on the ground and said, "It would be great if there was some kind of soul-searching secret technique. Maybe we could get some information about the overturned Seas gang." Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu looked at each other and said, "Maybe Senior Sister Qi has a way." Lu Ping followed the two of them to Zhenling's encampment. Lu Ping asked, "I heard that the two of you defeated Xianling sect's Miao Weidong and obtained a magic tool?" Ji Zishuan suddenly became excited and said, "Senior brother Lu, you heard about this too? Looks like the two of us are really going to be famous this time." Lu Ping looked helplessly at Ji Zishuan, who was gloating at the side. Yin Zichu still didn't say a word at the side. Lu Ping asked, "You were beaten so badly just now, why didn't you use a magic tool? If you used it, how could the overturned Seas gang be so arrogant?" Ji Zishuan's face fell when he heard that. He said, "Don't mention it. Once I got the magic tool, I wanted to blood bond with it. Unexpectedly, my arcane energy and divine sense were almost sucked dry by that magic tool. I only managed to blood bond with half of it. In that case, it can't be used to fight the enemy. Senior Sister Qi took it and gave it to a 9th layer blood condensation senior brother to strengthen the sect's strength in the 7 Star Skies. After we leave the 7 Star Skies, she will return it to me." Lu Ping nodded and didn't say anything. He thought to himself, it looks like the overturned Seas gang also calculated that Ji Zishuan wouldn't be able to successfully blood bond with the magic tool. That's why they dared to make a move. However, they didn't expect that the magic tool wasn't even on Ji Zishuan. "Fortunately, my arcane energy is deep enough that I barely managed to blood bond with it. If I let someone else blood bond with it before using it, just expelling the other person's arcane energy would take a long time, unless the person who first refined it died." Unlike Liu Ziyuan, who was also one of the 18 generals of the North Sea, Qi Zitsai was a rather capable and experienced female cultivator in her 30s. She was tall and skinny and wore a tight-fitting outfit. She had a shrewd face and a strong aura, giving off an aggressive feeling. It was no wonder that she could become the leader of this trip to the 7 Star Skies. After Qi Zitsai finished listening to Ji Zishuan's story, she glanced at the masked Lu Ping and turned to one of the 2 middle-aged men behind her. She said politely, "Senior brother Cao, I'll have to trouble you with this thief from the overturned Seas gang." Senior brother Cao stepped forward expressionlessly, picked up the overturned Seas gang cultivator from the ground, and walked away. Lu Ping had long noticed the 2 middle-aged 9th layer blood condensation cultivators behind Qi Zitsai. Although they were both 9th layer blood condensation cultivators, their auras were obscure, giving off an unfathomable feeling. Just as Lu Ping was quietly observing the two with his divine sense, senior brother Cao suddenly turned to look at Lu Ping and chuckled. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat, as if his plan had been seen through by senior brother Cao. When he turned to look again, he saw Qi Zicai and the other middle-aged cultivator looking at Lu Ping with smiles on their faces. Lu Ping knew that his little trick had been seen through and smiled awkwardly. Qi Zicai giggled and said, "A few days ago, I met brother Ari Buitao from West Tomb Island. He told me that junior brother Ari Buitao and brother Ari Buitao's third brother worked together to heavily injure Haiyang sect's Peng Changqing. That was how Xianling sect's Ouyang Wei Jian got the upper hand. The fact that junior brother Lu was able to return to the sect before the Seven Stars Temple opened has greatly increased our sect's strength." Chapter 175. When Lu Ping heard Qi Zicai mention Ouyang Wei Jian, Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. "Junior brother, I've also heard about this Ouyang Wei Jian several times. It is said that he is a rare genius cultivator of Xianling sect. Since he was able to kill Peng Changqing, his strength must not be low." Qi Zicai thought for a moment and said, "This person is indeed a genius. He is about the same age as junior brother Yin, but his cultivation has already reached the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. It is said that he is preparing to break through to the 9th layer. His swordsmanship is superb. Junior brother Yin has fought with him before, so you should understand." Yin Zichu's face was expressionless when he heard Qi Zicai's words, but a cold light flashed in his eyes. "This person's swordsmanship is very high. I am not his match. Xianling sect's direct inheritance, the merry 18 swords, has already reached the formless wind stage. The last sword, a total of 81 streams of sword light, has already fused together." Lu Ping's face was solemn. Xianling sect's 7 great inheritances, the most important one was the Fuyao art. In the history of Xianling sect, the 2 Laozu who cultivated to the true spirit level both practiced this set of sword arts. The Merry 18 Swords was the most famous set of this set of sword arts, famous in the North Sea. After listening to Yin Zichu's description of Ouyang Wei Jian's appearance, Lu Ping was sure that this Ouyang Wei Jian was the one who fought with Lu Ping and ambushed him in the demon territory. Then, Lu Ping asked Qi Zicai about the Jin young master. Qi Zicai's face turned solemn as she glanced at the middle-aged cultivator behind her. She said, "This person should be a core forging monster cultivator with his cultivation sealed. I heard that there's a Daoist master Jin Li in the Monster Sea region, the adopted son of the Golden Jiao Island Lord. I wonder if he's the one." Ji Zishuan also became serious. This person's swordsmanship is even better than Ouyang Wei Jian's. With his blood condensation realm cultivation, he has forced 2 sealed Daoist masters to leave the 7-star sky. This person rarely fights, but every time he does, he only uses 1 sword. Other than the 2 Daoist masters who were forced to expose their Jin Yuan, no one has survived. Lu Ping naturally wouldn't brag that he had escaped from his sword. Lu Ping had never suffered such a crushing defeat. Lu Ping had never been defeated before. Moreover, Lu Ping had comprehended Lu Ping's realm because Ping, Jin young master, has become Ping's goal. Jin Jiao Lu Ping's Ping. Lu. Qi Zicai noticed the change in Lu Ping's expression and giggled. "I heard junior martial brother has also offended Golden Jiao Island. This time, Golden Jiao Island's crocodiles have also arrived at the 7 Stars Palace. The 7 Stars Palace is about to open, so you must be careful." Lu Ping was startled. He thanked her. "Thank you for the reminder, senior sister." At this moment, senior brother Cao, who had left earlier, returned. He nodded at Qi Zicai and said, "I obtained a few places from the Overturned Seas gang. However, this person is just a small fry in the Overturned Seas gang. He doesn't know much." Another middle-aged cultivator behind Qi Zicai said, "We can't just leave this job to our Zhenling sect. We should leak this news to the other sects. I believe there are quite a number of people from the North Sea sects who are interested in the loot that the Overturned Ocean gang has plundered." When Qi Zicai heard this, she said, "Senior brother Sun's words make sense. Let me handle this matter." Right at this moment, a low rumbling sound was heard, and the ground they were standing on started to shake incessantly. Qi Zicai looked in the direction of the sound and said hurriedly, The Seven Stars Temple is opening. Inform all brothers to hurry to the Seven Stars Temple. We need to get a good position. Junling's group of 20 people rushed in the direction of the sound. Only then did Lu Ping realize that other than Lu Ping, Yin Zichu, and Ji Zishuan, Junling's group was at the 8th or 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. The 3 7th layer blood condensation realm cultivators were very eye-catching in Junling's group. A majestic building floated in the middle of the Seven Stars Temple. It looked like a pavilion in the sky. Junling's group was amazed at the Seven Stars Temple's grandeur. At the same time, they were amazed at how the Seven Stars Temple survived the chaotic battle between the 5 true spirit Laozu. In their hearts, they were even more respectful of the 5 true spirit Laozus. Although the Seven Stars Temple was a single building, it was divided into 7 pavilions. It was the place where the 7 Laozus who established the Seven Stars Temple passed down their teachings. The 7 halls were arranged according to the position of the Big Dipper. They were the eye of a large formation and the core of the Seven Stars Temple. The North Sea sects and many demon cultivators also arrived at the same time as Junling's sect. The cultivators surrounded Seven Stars Palace from a distance of several thousand feet away. Junling's sect had the advantage in numbers, so they had firmly occupied the northeast corner of Seven Stars Palace. After they spread out, they did not stay too far away from each other, forming a simple formation that was quite deep and could communicate with each other, ready to intercept the treasures spewed out from Seven Stars Palace. Xianling's sect occupied a spot on the northwest side. Like Junling, there were many small forces and rogue cultivators gathered around it. Lu Ping saw Ouyang Weijian among them. He was the one who had attacked him before. Ouyang Weijian had a keen sense and immediately noticed that someone was looking at him. He immediately looked in the direction of the gaze and at the same time, swept out with his divine sense. But Lu Ping didn't care. Not to mention, with so many cultivators mixed together, it was impossible for Ouyang Weijian to distinguish Lu Ping's aura. Not to mention that Lu Ping was wearing Yang Shenmu's mask. Sure enough, after a while, Ouyang Weijian retracted his gaze in confusion. But Lu Ping immediately felt a chill on his body, as if he was being stared at by a fierce beast. When he turned his head, he saw that in the south direction, Jin Young Master was looking at Lu Ping with a smile on his face, and a ferocious-looking man next to him was talking to him. Lu Ping fearlessly looked at Jin Young Master, regardless of the other party's identity as a core forging Daoist master. Jin Young Master looked at Lu Ping with appreciation and then turned to talk to the man next to him. Only then did Lu Ping discover that this ferocious-looking man was the eldest of the 4 original giant crocodiles who had set up an ambush in the past. He was also the eldest son of the Golden Flood Dragon Island Lord. At this time, this original giant crocodile no longer had a long crocodile mouth and looked no different from an ordinary person. Apparently, in the past 2 years, it had successfully formed its golden core and completely transformed. Just as Junling's sect was getting ready and the other cultivators were rushing towards the Seven Stars Palace, several cultivators flew over from the side, shouting loudly. Riding on their flying swords, they flew towards the Seven Stars Palace. At the same time, they cast a derisive look at the cultivators who were waiting for the Seven Stars Palace to open. They laughed and mocked the cultivators who were waiting for the Seven Stars Palace to open. Seeing that, many of the Yarrow cultivators flew into the sky as well, flying towards the Seven Stars Palace. It was as though they were afraid that the treasures would be snatched away by others if they fell behind. Senior brother Sun, who was standing behind Chi Zitsai, sighed and said, "Everywhere is full of these self-righteous guys. It's understandable that the brains of demon cultivators are slow, but why are human cultivators not as smart as demon cultivators?" As soon as senior brother Sun's words fell, a burst of screams was heard. When Lu Ping looked over, he only saw many broken arms and bodies falling to the ground. Lu Ping used his spiritual sense to explore the Seven Stars Temple, but did not find any spiritual power fluctuations from the restrictive formation. "This is the Great Void Formation." Senior brother Sun seemed to have noticed Lu Ping's doubts and explained, "Only the Dharma realm Laozu would be involved in this field, and the cultivators who arranged this formation must have at least reached the late Dharma realm, and there must be more than one person." Lu Ping was enlightened, and the shock in his heart could be imagined. Chapter 176. Just at this moment, there was a flash of light in the sky above Seven Stars Palace. The tightly shut doors and windows of the main hall on the Maigret's throne opened one after another, and the surroundings of the main hall began to shake. This time, the Maigret's hall will be the first to open. Junior Sister Chi, the void formation around the Maigret's hall has already weakened, and the treasure inside is about to spit out. Tell everyone to prepare. Chi Zitsai heard this and immediately transmitted her voice to Zhenling and the others. The other forces of the North Sea, as well as the rogue cultivators, also became nervous. Just as everyone's eyes were fixed on the opened doors and windows, Ji Zishuan suddenly nudged Lu Ping and said, "Let's go somewhere else." Seeing Lu Ping's questioning gaze, Ji Zishuan had an expression of exasperation, and said, "Idiot, the three of us came to Seven Stars Palace on our own, and did not represent Zhenling. Therefore, our gains in Seven Stars Palace naturally do not need to be handed over to the sect. If we stay in the area controlled by the sect, even if we have any gains, it will be the sect's credit. At most, the sect will give us some rewards." Lu Ping thought about it and felt that it was right. He turned to see Yin Zichu looking at him, so the three of them bade farewell to Chi Zitsai and were about to leave. Chi Zitsai smiled and said, "I knew the three of you were sneaky. Going somewhere else means that you will lose the protection of the sect, and the danger will definitely increase. You have to think about it carefully." Without waiting for Lu Ping and Yin Zichu to react, Ji Zishuan had already said anxiously, "Don't worry, Senior Sister Chi, you should have some understanding of our strength. We are not any weaker than your North Sea 18 generals." Looking at the three people walking out, Chi Zitsai smiled and said, "If I did not have some understanding of your strength, why would I let you go?" Lu Ping and the other two left the area controlled by Zhenling, and then changed directions, pretending to be rogue cultivators who had just arrived, and mixed in with a group of rogue cultivators in the southwest direction, causing the surrounding rogue cultivators to stare at them covetously. Naturally, Lu Ping and the rest were not bothered by these angry glares. They calmly surveyed their surroundings. This place was not far from Xianling sect's territory, but there were many cultivators in between. The three of them had just stood in a corner, when they heard a muffled woo-woo sound coming from within the Maigret's hall. 7 items, namely a jade box, a jade bottle, a piece of iron stone, 2 magic weapons, a talisman and a jade scroll, flew out from the Maigret's hall, flying in all directions. With the exception of the area under the control of the great forces, the other small and medium forces and loose cultivators fell into complete chaos. Several hundred cultivators flew up into the sky to snatch the treasures closest to them. Instantly, a chaotic battle broke out. One of the jade boxes was flying in the direction of Lu Ping and the rest. Just as Lu Ping was flying in the air, there were already more than 10 cultivators around him flying towards the jade box. It was as if the sky suddenly exploded with fireworks, all kinds of spells and magic weapons crisscrossed, immediately turning the surrounding area into a death zone. From time to time, there were heavily injured and dead cultivators screaming as they fell to the ground. Lu Ping's Qinghan sword trembled and unleashed the great river-flowing East Sword Art, which had already reached the level of sword intent. With an unstoppable momentum, Lu Ping's Qinghan sword swept towards the cultivator in front of him. The cultivators in front of him all retreated, not daring to block this boundless sword intent. The cultivators on both sides saw Lu Ping's bravery and rushed forward to attack, but were stopped by Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu. Lu Ping's sword momentum changed, the raging waves hitting the shore sword technique was launched, and the great waves surge up splashed a bright brilliance in all directions. Some cultivators who knew their stuff finally cried out in alarm, "Sword intent, this is sword intent." Lu Ping didn't care about the surrounding cultivators who cried out in alarm. A stream of water from the cold jade glaze bowl turned into a big hand in the air, snatching the jade box that was flying towards him. Ji Zishuan's anxious voice immediately sounded in his ears, "Quickly go, little Chu and I will hold them off first, we'll meet up in the southeast direction in a while." Lu Ping didn't say anything, the magic cloud under his feet flashed, the cloudy sky had already covered his head, and he sped towards the forest behind him. The cultivators behind him rushed up to stop Lu Ping, Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu fought in the crowd, and the crowd suddenly became chaotic. Lu Ping threw a blood condensation talisman behind him, and a group of ice blades, ice walls, ice blades, ice arrows, giant waves, water dragons, water snakes, water eagles, water ducks, and so on. The group of cultivators following behind Lu Ping were thrown into confusion, and many cultivators were caught off guard and even suffered injuries. When everyone rushed out of the chaos, there was no trace of the red-faced cultivator in front of them. At this time, Lu Ping was still running in the forest, and the 5 cultivators behind him had already shaken off 2 of them, but there were still 3 people still chasing Lu Ping. From their movement techniques and secret communication, Lu Ping figured out that these 3 people should be working closely with each other. These 3 people were obviously proficient in tracking techniques, and their speed was no slower than Lu Ping's magic cloud. Lu Ping looked at the 3 people. One was at the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm, and the other was at the 8th layer. After some thought, he decided to test them. When the 3 people saw that Lu Ping suddenly stopped and faced them, they also slowed down and formed a triangle to surround Lu Ping. Lu Ping calmly said to the 3 people, "The 3 of you are chasing me so closely, aren't you afraid of missing out on the treasures that will appear when the other star halls open?" The green-faced cultivator in the lead asked sternly, "Where did you get the cold jade glazed bowl in your hands?" The crystal bowl was obtained by Lu Ping after he ambushed the overflowing Sea Gang's Fury Sea Hall's new hall master, Yuan Shikong. Lu Ping's heart stirred, and he asked seriously, "You are from the overflowing Sea Gang? So it's you." The big-headed cultivator said coldly, "Speak, who are your accomplices? Did you guys kill junior apprentice brother Yuan Shikong?" The leading cultivator naturally didn't think that this 7th layer blood condensation realm cultivator could kill the 8th layer Yuan Shikong 2 years ago. 2 years ago, the death of the overflowing Sea Gang's new hall master, Yuan Shikong, was a mystery in the overflowing Sea Gang. On that day, the rescuers only saw the cultivator who killed Yuan Shikong from afar, riding a demonic bird, and couldn't catch up. Yuan Shikong had a powerful backer. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to control the Fury Sea Hall at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. Hence, his death caused quite a commotion in the overflowing Sea Gang. Several of the gang's higher-ups received varying degrees of punishment. Now that the leading cultivator saw the famous cold jade glazed bowl that Yuan Shikong used, he immediately felt that his chance to make a contribution had arrived. As long as he could capture this red-faced cultivator in front of him and figure out the cause of Yuan Shikong's death, he might receive the favor of the big shot behind Yuan Shikong and rise to the top in a single step. Just as the leading cultivator was still thinking about how to capture Lu Ping executed the midstream strike move of the sky-piercing rock sword art. It carried a courageous intent realm as it shot out from the Qinghan sword in Lu Ping's hand, aimed at the leading cultivator's eyes. The leading cultivator's eyes were blinded by the sword intent contained in Lu Ping's dazzling sword light. The leading cultivator knew that Lu Ping had grasped sword intent, so he didn't dare to be careless. He used a top-grade magic artifact to block Lu Ping's sword light. At the same time, a giant seashell appeared above his head, protecting him. Lu Ping had made up his mind to kill the 3 of them. Otherwise, if news of this got out, he would have to constantly be on guard against the overturned Seas sect's ambush. At the same time, Lu Ping didn't want to miss the opening of the other star halls. The leading cultivator blocked Lu Ping's sword, but he was forced back several feet. At this moment, 2 more cultivators rushed over to support him. The cultivator on the left felt a shadow above his head. A giant green bird swooped down, a pair of iron claws already aiming for his head. The cultivator on the left turned to avoid Lu Qin's iron claws, but he suddenly felt the ground beneath his feet loosen. His waist had already sunk into the ground. The cultivator's protective chi of vigor trembled, and he was about to leap up when Lu Qin's beak was already pecking at his eyeballs. The cultivator couldn't dodge in time and could only tilt his head to the side. Lu Qin's vigor barrier was pecked through, tearing a large piece of flesh from the cultivator's shoulder. The cultivator cried out in pain, and waved his hand to hit the celestial artifact in his hand at Lu Qin. However, he didn't know when, but a tortoise had actually flown into the air. The celestial artifact hit the tortoise's shell, and sparks flew. At this moment, the two legs that were sunk into the ground suddenly hurt, as if they were bitten by something. The cultivator was shocked and jumped up again, but he felt another pain on his buttocks. When the cultivator jumped up into the air, he fell straight down. His face kept changing between blue, white, and his body was stiff, but he kept trembling, and his eyes were wide open. Just when the cultivator on the left was beaten to the last breath by the tacit cooperation of Lu Ping's 6 spiritual pets, the attack from the cultivator on the right had already been blocked by the cloudy sky above Lu Ping's head. The cultivator on the right didn't have time to retract his celestial artifact. A small and exquisite silver jade seal in the shape of Linglong suddenly flew up from the top of Lu Ping's head. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a 3 Zhong, 3 Kai, and 3 Kun large seal. 2 domineering words were engraved at the bottom of the seal: landslide. This was the first time Lu Ping used landslide to defend against an enemy after upgrading it to a top-grade celestial artifact. The landslide that was enhanced by a top-grade level 2 mutated spiritual material, deep-sea silver iron, finally revealed its brutal attacking style in front of the enemy. Landslide struck down, and the cultivator's flying sword was knocked away. The defensive crystal shield shattered, and the cultivator spat out a mouthful of blood. However, before the cultivator could defend himself, landslide had already struck down a second time. Under the cultivator's fearful gaze, the protective aura around him burst like a bubble, and a human meat patty appeared on the ground. It seemed slow, but it happened very quickly. In the time it took for the leading cultivator to retreat and attack Lu Ping, his 2 8th-layer blood condensation subordinates had already died. The leading cultivator sucked in a breath of cold air. He stopped in his tracks and immediately retreated. His face was filled with fear. However, how could Lu Ping allow him to leave so easily? The cold jade-glazed bowl spat out a water pillar, forming a water net in the direction he was retreating. At the same time, another water pillar shot out from the bowl and wrapped around the Qinghan sword in mid-air. The Qinghan sword was like a sharp horn on the head of the water dragon, and it charged towards the leading cultivator. Chapter 177. Lu Ping took a big detour and sprinted towards the southeast direction. The cut on his arm had already stopped bleeding. Lu Ping changed out of his torn clothes. Otherwise, when he reached the southeast direction and was seen by other cultivators, it would be hard to avoid suspicion. Lu Ping swallowed a spirit recovery pill and held 2 mid-grade spirit stones in his hands. He quickly recovered the little transcendence energy left in his body. He didn't expect the cultivator leading the charge from the overturned oceans sect to be so difficult to deal with. Just as Lu Ping used the green serpent ocean disturbance sword technique and attacked the leading cultivator with all his might, he saw the leading cultivator wrap his protective mystic instrument behind his back and smash the water net into pieces. At the same time, the cultivator muttered an incantation and all the transcendence energy in his body surged into his tightly clenched right hand. He ignored the water serpent that was rushing towards him. Lu Ping's heart trembled and he was secretly on guard to prevent any accidents from happening. Just as the water serpent destroyed the cultivator's protective chi of vigor, a ray of light suddenly exploded from the cultivator's hand. The cultivator opened his hand and an inch-sized red bead suddenly flew towards Lu Ping. It smashed the water serpent into a pool of stagnant water and sent the Qinghan sword flying. Before Lu Ping could react, the red bead had already arrived above Lu Ping. Countless red threads extended from the red bead and wrapped around Lu Ping. Lu Ping barely managed to raise the Qinghan sword and slashed at the red threads. However, he discovered that these red threads were wisps of light and had no substance. The threads tightly wrapped around Lu Ping and he was unable to move. Lu Ping said bitterly, "It's actually a transcendent artifact." The leading cultivator's face was pale and covered in cold sweat. However, he laughed proudly and said, "I didn't think the scarlet afterglow bead I took from another cultivator would have such power. If I knew you were so difficult to deal with, I would have used the scarlet afterglow bead right from the start. My 2 junior brothers wouldn't have died. However, as long as I can capture you, everything will be worth it." The cultivator paused and took a deep breath before saying, "Right now, I am the knife and you are the meat on the chopping block. If you tell us who killed Yuan Shikong, we can spare your life after crippling your cultivation. If you don't tell us, we might have to let you have a taste of our sect's high-grade cultivator's soul-searching technique." Seeing the complacent expression on the cultivator's face, Lu Ping's eyes gradually turned cold. He said, "Do you think you can defeat me just like that?" The cultivator was stunned. What? A huge pestle suddenly appeared in the air and smashed towards the scarlet afterglow bead above Lu Ping's head. The scarlet afterglow bead wailed and quickly retracted the threads it spat out. The threads wrapped around the scarlet afterglow bead and slowly fell to the ground like a ball of yarn. Just as the medicinal pestle struck down the scarlet afterglow bead, there was a pu sound. The cultivator's ears, eyes, nostrils, and mouth all began to bleed. This was a sign that his divine sense and magic power had simultaneously suffered heavy damage. The leading cultivator pointed a trembling finger at Lu Ping. His face was full of disbelief. "You actually have an arcane artifact. You can actually wield a transcendent artifact. How is this possible?" The Qinghan sword flashed past, and the cultivator's head flew into the air. Lu Ping's face was deathly pale from using a transcendent artifact. He mumbled, "Who said a 7th-layer blood condensation cultivator can't wield a transcendent artifact?" Lu Ping collected the 3 cultivator's storage pouches, then picked up the scarlet afterglow bead on the ground and put it into his storage ring. Ignoring the weakness in his body caused by the excessive arcane energy consumption, he quickly left the area. Lu Ping found a secluded spot and released all his spiritual pets to stand guard. He quickly sat down and meditated to recover 20% of his spiritual energy. Then, he gulped down 2 mouthfuls of the 1000-spirit wine that he had been saving for a long time before heading southeast. By the time he reached the southeast side, he had already recovered 40% of his arcane energy. The Alioth Hall had already been opened, and the cultivators on the battlefield had just experienced a chaotic battle. Lu Ping scanned the area with his divine sense, but he didn't find Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu. The 2 of them were either protecting Lu Ping from being chased, or they had snatched the treasures spat out by the Alioth Hall and were hiding from the pursuers. Lu Ping took this opportunity to continue to recover his arcane energy. At the same time, his divine sense scanned the storage ring and checked his harvest. Although he had missed the opening of the Alioth Hall, he had obtained a magic treasure, the scarlet afterglow bead, from the hands of the Overflowing Seas gang. This might be more precious than the treasures in the Alioth Hall. Lu Ping's divine sense probed into the scarlet afterglow bead. There was only one mysterious and complicated restriction, which meant that the scarlet afterglow bead had only been refined with one treasure restriction. It was no wonder that it had been knocked to the ground by a single strike from the medicinal pestle. There were 2 treasured restrictions within the medicinal pestle, even though both treasured restrictions were the same. The jade box in the Megrez Hall, Lu Ping had already checked it on the way here. The things inside made Lu Ping speechless. A total of 36 golden nuts. Lu Ping had just obtained a golden nut fruit tree, and there were still 20 ripe fruits on it. Luckily, although the effect of the golden nuts to strengthen the body was the best at the beginning, the effect became less obvious as time went by, but there was still some effect. At least with these 36 fruits, Lu Ping would not have to wait another 100 years. It was just that Lu Ping did not know that if there was a Dharma Laozu present, and he heard Lu Ping's thoughts, he would definitely stretch out 2 fingers and strangle him to death. So many Laozu scoured the world in search of elixirs to strengthen the body, but Lu Ping actually thought that there were too many of them. However, the jade box was a good treasure. The golden nuts had been in the jade box for at least tens of thousands of years, but the golden nuts were still perfectly preserved. The medicinal power and moisture inside did not decrease in the slightest. Even the jade essence bottle that was used to store Dharma elixirs did not have this kind of effect after being sealed with a spirit-sealing talisman. As the cultivators waited expectantly, another part of the void array around the 7 Stars Hall was destroyed, and a rumbling sound was heard. This time, it was the divine pivot hall that opened. However, of the 7 treasures that were spat out, none of them were heading towards Lu Ping. The one closest to Lu Ping was several tens of feet away. By the time Lu Ping arrived, many of the cultivators who were fighting had already fled to the periphery. From time to time, there would be cultivators dying, and the treasure would also change hands a few times. In the end, no one knew where it ended up. Lu Ping was alone, and the dharmic powers in his body had not recovered, so he did not dare to participate in such a chaotic battle, and could only give up. The fourth opening was the Divine Pivot Hall. Lu Ping, who had recovered 70% of his dharmic powers, decided to participate and fish in troubled waters. It was a pill furnace that was heading towards the area where Lu Ping was. Lu Ping's eyes lit up, and he secretly praised his good luck. However, as soon as the pill furnace appeared, Lu Ping was not the only one who went crazy. Since the opening of the Seven Stars Hall, all the magic tools that appeared were high-grade and below. Even if they were high-grade magic tools, most of them had special functions. Otherwise, even if the seven Laozu reluctantly accepted it, which disciple would be shameless enough to give it to them? Therefore, the grade of this pill furnace was at least high-grade, and even if it was a high-grade pill furnace, its value was equivalent to a magic treasure. Lu Ping decided to take the cauldron by force. As his alchemy skills improved day by day, the Ajurasia halting pellet, golden resilience pellet, and other medicinal pellets that were almost equivalent to half-step core forging realm medicinal pellets, his original mid-grade cauldron was no longer enough. Lu Ping swung his Qinghan sword, and 81 sword rays shot out, indiscriminately slashing at the crowd of cultivators who were fighting for the pill furnace. Lu Ping changed several sword techniques in a row, and he even used the blood condensation spirit dissolving fist sword that he had practiced during the blood refining realm. It was a sword technique that was at the level of sword intent. Lu Ping swung his sword 9 times in a row, and when the 9th sword thrust out, the sword rays in the sky changed. The 81 sword rays instantly split into 162 sword rays. Lu Ping's swordsmanship had improved again. Chapter 178. Lu Ping thrust his sword out 9 times in a row. The sword rays filled the sky like a galaxy falling from the heavens, killing 3 and severely injuring 5 of the 8 people fighting around the cauldron. One had to know that those who dared to fight for the cauldron were all at least in the 8th or 9th layer blood condensation realm. Which one of them didn't have their eyes and ears sharp enough to scan their surroundings with their divine sense? The 8 people who were fighting fiercely for the cauldron suddenly retreated, causing the surrounding cultivators to slow down. Lu Ping took advantage of the fact that everyone was still wary of him and put the cauldron into his storage ring, then turned and ran. The cultivators who finally reacted shouted and chased after Lu Ping. There were also many cultivators in front of Lu Ping to block him. Whirlwinds formed one after another in Lu Ping's hands. When the 7th whirlwind was formed, a layer of blue water light spread out from the whirlwinds, turning the 7 whirlwinds into 7 water tornadoes that pierced the sky. 3 of the 7 water tornadoes opened up a path in front, while the other 4 tornadoes wreaked havoc behind them. This was the head of the Zhenling 4 spirits, Water Spirit Enlightened Master, Liu Xuanling's 7th layer core forging realm talisman. Nearly 100 cultivators who were chasing after Lu Ping were thrown into a complete mess. When the water tornadoes disappeared, Lu Ping was nowhere to be seen. Lu Ping was hiding in a cave that he had asked Dabao to dig out beforehand, secretly laughing to himself. Why did Lu Ping use Liu Xuanling's water tornado talisman without any hesitation? One must know that Liu Xuanling's talisman was extremely precious. Even a core forging realm enlightened master would be severely injured under Lu Ping's sneak attack with the water tornado. Lu Ping put the cauldron into his storage ring and immediately realized that it was a top-grade cauldron. What did a top-grade cauldron mean? As one of the top sects in the North Sea, the Zhenling sect only had 3 top-grade cauldrons. In the entire North Sea, only Xianling sect had an advanced artifact cauldron. Lu Ping made a prompt decision and used the water spout to quickly leave the battlefield. He wanted to make sure that the red-faced cultivator disappeared from everyone's sight before the cultivators who had come into contact with the pill furnace spread the news. Lu Ping stayed in the cave for 2 hours. Under the combined effects of the spirit-recovering pill, spirit-recovering pill, spirit-raising pill, spirit-raising pill, spirit stone, 1,000 spirit wine, spirit-gathering praying mat, and the psychic jade pendant, he finally recovered the remaining 30% of his transcendence energy to 70%. Lu Ping turned around again and headed north. At this time, another star hall had opened, but he didn't know which one it was. Just as Lu Ping took a detour and crossed a low grassy slope, 2 rays of light suddenly flew in Lu Ping's direction one after another. Lu Ping quickly hid behind a tree. After thinking for a while, Lu Ping really didn't have confidence in his invisibility technique. So, he grabbed the bough with one hand and disappeared into the ground with the other. "Hey, little brother, where are you going? Why don't you follow me back to my cave abode and we can be husband and wife for a few days? Isn't that great?" When Lu Ping heard this, he knew that the one chasing him was most likely a demon cultivator. Only a female demon cultivator would speak so unscrupulously. "Shameless female demon, why don't you take a mirror and look at yourself? You're just an ugly freak. Catch me if you can." Lu Ping had a strange expression on his face. This was clearly Ari Shutao's voice. He didn't expect this little brother to be teased by the female demon. Ari Shutao's ugly freak seemed to have hit the female demon's weak point. The female demon roared and seemed to have activated some kind of secret technique. Ari Shudao cried out in surprise. Then, a series of ping-ping-pang-pang sounds could be heard. Clearly, the battle was quite intense. When Lu Ping heard the two fighting, he didn't rush out. Although Ari Shudao lacked battle experience, with his cultivation, he should be able to hold on for a while. As the two walked forward, the shockwaves from their battle had already reached the ground. Lu Ping's divine sense was still able to see through the thick layer of soil, but he could still see the two clearly. Lu Ping was stunned again. That female demon was also someone he knew. It was none other than the third of the 4 primordial giant crocodiles. This fellow was still dressed in red, but its face was still covered. It was probably because it hadn't completed its transformation. However, its aura was strong. It was clearly at the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. Ari Shudao was no match for it. He was being suppressed by the female crocodile. If not for the fact that the female crocodile was playing a game of cat and mouse, Ari Shudao would have already been killed by her. Ari Shudao could clearly see that the female crocodile was toying with him. The female crocodile giggled and said, "Ayaya, little big brother is angry. If little big brother gives the jade slip that flew out of the alcade hall to me, then I will let you go. What do you say?" The female crocodile's tone was gentle, but when Lu Ping thought of the crocodile that hadn't transformed, he broke out in a cold sweat. As expected, Ari Shudao scolded, "Shameless female demon, ugly freak, rotten tomato. Kill me if you can." The female crocodile was enraged by her scolding. She said in a sinister voice, "I originally planned to be your husband and wife for a few days. Since you want to die so much, it just so happens that I don't have much appetite these few days." Ari Shutao's face turned pale. He could only grit his teeth and attack the female crocodile with all his might. The female crocodile saw that Ari Shutao's attacks were disorderly and panicked. It was obvious that her mind was in chaos. Just as the female crocodile saw an opening in Ari Shudao and was prepared to take him down, thinking of torturing him for a few days after the 7-star skies closed, a sword beam suddenly burst out from the ground and slashed at the female crocodile's abdomen. The female crocodile didn't expect that there was a person hiding under her feet. In a panic, she only had time to release her protective aura. At the same time, the clothes on the surface of her body were quickly torn, and scales shining with golden light covered her abdomen. Although the female crocodile's protective aura wasn't weak, it still couldn't withstand Lu Ping's full-powered attack with a top-grade mystic instrument. The protective aura around the female crocodile was shattered, and the 128 sword auras pierced into the female crocodile's abdomen, which was the weakest part. Even with the protection of the scales, there were still numerous small wounds on her abdomen, from which blood was gushing out. "It's you. I remember you. That day, my 4th brother died because he chased after you. You killed my 4th brother." The female crocodile was injured by Lu Ping's sword and immediately recognized Lu Ping. After all, He could take the attack of the primordial giant crocodile and escape successfully. Therefore, Lu Ping still attracted the attention of others that day. The female crocodile remembered his aura, so she still recognized Lu Ping even with the mask covering him. Lu Ping's face darkened. When the female crocodile was about to cry for help, suddenly a mass of water surged from the ground, turning into various water scorpions, water centipedes, water leeches, water lice, and water spiders, and went to the mouth of the female crocodile. Lu Ping's water control tactics had been practiced to the point of perfection, which surprised the female crocodile and made her shut her mouth. Lu Ping used spring water flows east from the Great River East sword tactics to cut the female crocodile's head. The female crocodile pulled out a whip from nowhere and shook her hand to create 72 whip shadows, which entangled on Lu Ping's sword lights. Although it couldn't annihilate all the sword lights, it made Lu Ping's Qinghan sword deviate and cut on his shoulder, breaking the scales and cutting off a layer of flesh. The female crocodile groaned in pain and turned to escape. However, Ari Shudao had circled behind her and formed a sharp trident with 6 Dharma artifacts, which stabbed into the female crocodile's face. The female crocodile finally couldn't hold on any longer. The green mist covering her face was slowly dissipating, but Lu Ping's Qinghan sword had already swept past, and the huge crocodile's head flew up and fell to the ground. Lu Ping's divine sense swept over, but unfortunately, he couldn't find any traces of the condensed blood bead. He could only wave his hand and put the crocodile's corpse away. After a demonic cultivator died, they would have to return to their original form. This crocodile did have a storage pouch, but there weren't any Dharma treasures that Lu Ping was hoping for. He thought about it and realized that he was too greedy. Dharma treasures were rare and precious. Just look at how Zhenling's group of 20 people only obtained 2 Dharma treasures. Lu Ping now had 2 Dharma treasures on him, so why wouldn't he be satisfied? When Ari Shudao saw that Lu Ping had killed the primordial giant crocodile, he immediately jumped in front of Lu Ping and said excitedly, "Big brother Lu, when the Alcade Palace opened, I obtained a jade slip. Here, let's take a look at what's recorded inside." Lu Ping helplessly looked at the jade slip in front of him and said, "Aren't you afraid that I'll steal your jade slip and kill you to silence you?" Ari Shudao had a carefree expression and said, "Then you're not Big Brother Lu." Lu Ping's divine sense swept over and said unhappily, "The jade slip is sealed with divine sense. I can't read it now. I'll let your elders see it when we get home and I'll tell you." Oh. Ari Shudao was a little dejected as he put the jade slip back into his storage belt. He only cared about snatching the jade slip and running away. He didn't know that the jade slip was sealed with divine sense. In the distance, a few streaks of light flashed and flew towards Lu Ping and Ari Shudao. Lu Ping said, "Your big brother and the others are here." But in his heart, he secretly cursed, "Why is this big brother always one step late?" When Ari Shudao saw Lu Ping appear and saw the pool of blood on the ground, how could he not know what had happened? He hurriedly said, "This time, Brother Lu has helped us a lot. This little brother is really sorry. I didn't expect that one of the 2 primordial giant crocodiles had already advanced to the core forging stage. We attacked with all our might, but we could only block the core forging giant crocodile that hadn't used its full strength." Lu Ping saw that there were fewer people behind Ari Buotao than before. He recalled the words of the cultivators from the Overflowing Seas gang who had ambushed Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu. Lu Ping asked, "Brother Ari, did you encounter an attack from the Overflowing Seas gang?" Ari Buotao's expression darkened. "Yes. We lost a few brothers, and there are still a few who are hiding and recuperating. However, the Overflowing Seas gang didn't gain any advantage. We killed 3 or 4 of them, and heavily injured 5 or 6 of them." Lu Ping thought for a moment, then said in a low voice, "After the 7 Stars Temple opens, Brother Ari, you can contact Senior Sister Chi from my sect. Perhaps the sects of the North Sea will launch an operation against the Overflowing Seas gang." Ari Buotao swung his arm down forcefully and said fiercely, "That's great. I've wanted to take care of these ghost-like fellows for a long time. However, the members of the Overflowing Seas gang are very scattered. They're scattered among the many loose cultivators, so it's hard to distinguish them. Does your sect's senior sister Qi have any way of finding their secret gathering point? Lu Ping shook his head. This little brother doesn't know. Chapter 179. Lu Ping discreetly asked Ari Buetao, "Brother Ari, I heard from Brother Shu Dao that 5 of the 7 stars temples have been opened, and there are already 35 treasures that have their own owners. How are the various forces around the temples?" Ari Buetao said helplessly, 7 Stars Temple is surrounded by all kinds of people. Other than the big sects like Xianling sect and your sect, it's very difficult for other sects to occupy a stable place in 7 Stars Temple. I heard that Xianling sect and your sect each obtained 4 treasures. Later, your sect's 2 heroes, Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu, snatched a treasure from the east side of the 7 Stars Temple. They were chased by people and had to run all the way to the area controlled by your sect before they were safe. So your sect has obtained 5 treasures. Lu Ping heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu were safe. Although Lu Ping knew that their combined strength wasn't any weaker than a 9th-layer blood condensation realm expert, he couldn't guarantee his own safety in a chaotic battle. Lu Ping saw Ari Buetao's envious expression and said, "Didn't Brother Shu Dao also get a treasure? After all, there are only 49 treasures in the 7 Stars Temple." Ari Buetao heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "That's right. My West Hill Islands Ari clan is only a medium-sized force in the North Sea. To be able to obtain a treasure is already a stroke of good fortune, not to mention that there are demon clan forces that are not any weaker than the North Sea sects." Lu Ping heard this and said, "It seems that those monster cultivators also got a lot of treasures." Ari Buetao solemnly said, "Yes, of the 35 treasures, 15 or 16 have fallen into the hands of the monster cultivators. Especially that Jin young master who took 3, and the Golden Flood Dragon Island's primordial giant crocodile also got 2. This time, he was eyeing the jade slip that third brother obtained and sent his third sister to snatch it. If it wasn't for Brother Lu's help, the consequences would be unimaginable." Lu Ping said, "Most of the other treasures also fell into the hands of the large forces?" Ari Buetao shook his head and said, "Not necessarily. There were also a few lucky rogue cultivators and demonic cultivators who obtained treasures. I'm afraid they're either being chased or hiding and waiting for the 7-Star Sky Palace to close. There are also many rumors around the 7 Stars Hall. One moment, it's said that someone obtained a treasure, and the next moment, it's said that someone also obtained a treasure. In the end, only 35 treasures have appeared, and 70 or 80 people have obtained treasures." Lu Ping secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. After all, many treasures would change hands several times in a chaotic battle. No one could say for sure who had taken the treasures. After bidding farewell to Ari Buetao and the rest, Lu Ping headed north. This area was located in the center of Zhenling and Xianling sects' territories. It couldn't be helped. After all, almost half of the 7 Stars Temple's territory was occupied by the demonic cultivators. The Jade Temple rumbled and was about to open. Lu Ping quietly walked to the north, keeping an appropriate distance from the vigilant cultivators around him. Lu Ping looked around and found that Xianling sect's Ouyang Wei Jian was also among the cultivators. It seems that this person also has the same idea as Lu Ping and the other 2. Lu Ping's arrival also attracted Ouyang Wei Jian's attention, but Lu Ping's mask and spirit concealment technique made Ouyang Wei Jian just glanced at him casually and didn't pay attention to him. By then, the number of cultivators surrounding the 7 Stars Palace had been reduced by half. With the exception of those who had died in the chaotic battle, the remaining cultivators had already begun a battle within the 7 Stars Palace. Additionally, there was no telling just how many dangers were lurking outside the 7 Stars Palace, where divine sense could not reach. The 7 treasures of the Jade Palace flew in all directions. The northeast direction where Zhenling sect was located was obviously not very lucky this time. None of the 7 treasures were aimed at Zhenling sect, but Xianling sect got a golden talisman without much effort, but they didn't know what it was used for. Lu Ping and the others were also in a good direction. A fist-sized silver-gray stone flew over, But obviously, Ouyang Weijian's position was better. Space stone, it's space stone. Take it. Watch my sword. Get lost. Lu Ping didn't expect it to be space stone. This is a necessary material for refining spatial artifacts. Although it's not as precious as heaven and earth spirit treasures, but because of its special effect, cultivators generally call this kind of treasure as a heaven and earth strange object. Its value is comparable to a top-grade spiritual material that has lost its spirituality. According to Lu Ping's knowledge, the myriad poison paste in his hand is a kind of heaven and earth strange object. Chen Lian once told Lu Ping that ordinary interspatial pouches could be crafted with space dark stone powder. Even the exquisite interspatial pouches used by blood condensation realm cultivators only used space dark stone powder. Larger space dark stones could be used to craft high-grade spatial mystic instruments such as storage bracelets or rings. But this fist-sized space dark stone didn't even appear in Chen Lian's description of it. In other words, this space stone could be used to create a large-scale spatial artifact like the 1000-bell millet in Lu Ping's hand. Usually, such large-scale spatial artifacts are made by Dharma manifestation realm cultivators like Laozu. Ouyang Weijian obviously knew the value of such a large space stone. Before he made his move, several cultivators had already made their moves to snatch it. Ouyang Weijian wasn't in a hurry to join the fray. Instead, he slowly shifted his position. Lu Ping could see clearly that Ouyang Weijian's position would ensure that after he snatched the space stone, he would quickly break through the encirclement of Xianling sect. The corner of Lu Ping's mouth twitched. From his current position, it was impossible for him to snatch the space stone. Unless he had the confidence to deal with 30 to 40 mid and late blood condensation realm cultivators surrounding him. However, Lu Ping was confident that he could make a mess of the situation if he made a move. He thrust his sword out, graceful, swift, and untraceable. Ouyang Weijian made his move. His sword turned into an invisible gust of wind, causing those who saw it to unconsciously choose to ignore it. The key to the merry 18 swords: fast, accurate, invisible. Different from most other sword intent realms, Xianling sect swordsmanship's standard to achieve sword intent was not complex sword training, but return to one. For most of the cultivators who practiced swordsmanship, after reaching the realm of sword intent, the first step was sword refinement to complexity. The 81 sword lights would be divided into 162 sword lights, and then 1296 sword lights, reaching the highest level of sword refinement to complexity. Then, they would begin to combine the sword lights into one, achieving the realm of sword refinement as one. Xianling sect swordsmanship required the cultivator to first combine the 81 sword energies into one, then the 162 sword energies into one, all the way until the 1296 sword energies were combined into one, directly achieving the state of unity of sword and practice. The former was relatively easy to progress in the complex sword training realm, but it was extremely difficult to achieve the unity of sword training realm. The latter was extremely difficult to achieve every breakthrough, but it lowered the threshold of the unity of sword training realm. It was hard to tell which was better. Chapter 180. As for the power of the two swordsmanship realms, they each had their own emphasis. Xianling sect's swordsmanship focused on its destructive power. As long as the sword hit its target, the defensive mystic artifact would be under a lot of pressure, but at the same time, the opponent would be able to easily defend and dodge. On the other hand, the complicate swordsmanship realm allowed one to unleash hundreds of sword rays in a battle, making it impossible to defend against. However, because the sword rays were scattered, the power of the swordsmanship would decrease. In Ouyang Weijian's hand was a top-grade magical artifact, the flowing wind sword. He rapidly thrust out 12 times. The first 4 strikes were unexpected, and the 4 cultivators fighting for the dark space stone were all killed. Because everyone was prepared for the next 4 strikes, only one of them died due to his lack of strength. The other 3 cultivators' high-grade defensive magical artifacts were either knocked away or shattered, and all 3 of them were injured. When the last 4 strikes were thrust out, the cultivators fighting for the dark space stone all retreated, not daring to block the sharpness of this person. Ouyang Wei Jian let out a long laugh as he reached out to grab the netherspace stone in the center. Just as he was about to touch the netherspace stone, a layer of snow-white waves suddenly surged up from behind Ouyang Wei Jian. 182 swordfish merrily jumped in the waves, biting towards Ouyang Wei Jian. Someone's sneak attack. Why is there a hint of mockery in such a thick murderous aura? Not good, this person's swordsmanship has reached the realm of sword intent. In an instant, these three thoughts flashed through Ouyang Wei Jian's mind. He didn't have time to grab the sky stone in his hand. He swung his flowing wind sword behind him, and like an immortal walking across the river, he stabbed the 128 swordfish down. Ouyang Wei Jian turned around and looked in the direction of the sneak attack. To his surprise, there was no trace of the attacker, only a huge wave crashing down on him. Not good. This person has reached the realm of the dual realms of weapon and technique. I only destroyed the sword intent and neglected the spell. Ouyang Wei Jian didn't have time to think. Two wing-shaped mystic artifacts suddenly stretched out from his back. The feathers on the wings were black and shiny, like daggers, protecting Ouyang Wei Jian. Unexpectedly, the magical power that was supporting the huge wave suddenly withdrew, and the 30-feet-high water suddenly turned into a waterfall, drenching Ouyang Wei Jian like a drowned rat. Ouyang Wei Jian didn't expect that the attacker would use such a prank. Didn't he want to kill him? Why was his killing intent so strong? That's right, that sense of ridicule. Not good, I've fallen into a trap. Ouyang Wei Jian's reaction could not be said to be slow. He turned around and thrust his sword towards the dark space stone. His magic power surged, and the moment he turned around, the water vapor on his body evaporated. Ouyang Wei Jian immediately returned to his previous carefree state. Ding! A crisp sound rang out. The sound was not loud, but the penetrating power was extremely strong. Ouyang Wei Jian's sword had finally blocked the sneak attacker. The sneak attacker's ultimate goal was the space stone. It's you. After Ouyang Wei Jian turned around, the sneak attacker finally revealed himself. However, how could the red mask conceal the inexplicable familiarity between the two? A silver-gray stone streaked across the sky, flying towards the area controlled by Zhenling. Lu Ping had already calculated Ouyang Wei Jian's every move the moment he thrust his sword towards the space dark stone. He knew that Ouyang Wei Jian would guard the space dark stone tightly in case of an ambush. Hence, when Ouyang Wei Jian turned around and thrust his sword towards the space dark stone, Lu Ping took advantage of the situation. The azure sword and flowing wind sword clashed, and at the same time, Lu Ping also diverted the space darkstone's trajectory. By the time everyone reacted, they saw the sky above Zhenling suddenly rise. The space stone was swept down and fell into the hands of a capable female cultivator. At the same time, the female cultivator waved her hand. In the blink of an eye, the surrounding cultivators were confused by the two's tyrannical swordsmanship and the dramatic loss of the space stone. Lu Ping didn't dare to stay for long in a situation where he was surrounded by enemies. When he saw Chizitsai wave her hand, he knew that Chizitsai would come to his aid. Before the other cultivators could react, his sword transformed into a torrent, creating a river in the crowd. He met up with the Zhenling cultivators who came to his aid and returned to the area controlled by Zhenling. On the other side, Ouyang Wei Jian didn't stop either. He transformed into a cool breeze, flowing through the crowd of cultivators. Everyone tried to block him, but they couldn't catch his figure. Only two curling voices echoed in the air. Zhenling Lu Ping, there will be a battle between you and me, anytime. Lu Ping returned to the area controlled by Zhenling and arrived in front of senior sister Chizitsai. Chizitsai didn't say anything. Senior brother Cao, who had been following behind her, looked at Lu Ping with a gloomy expression. Suddenly, two words jumped out of his mouth, very good. Chizitsai giggled and said, Senior brother Cao rarely praises people. Senior brother Cao didn't respond, but Chizitsai didn't mind. Obviously, she knew senior brother Cao's character. Lu Ping was very sure that senior brother Cao and senior brother Sun, who had been following behind Chizitsai, were the two core forging Daoist masters who had sealed the cultivators. Therefore, Lu Ping didn't dare to be negligent. He bowed and said, "Senior Brother Cao, you flatter me." Lu Ping looked around and didn't see Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu, so he quickly asked Qi Zitsai. Qi Zitsai said, "It's really unfortunate. The two of them saw that the treasure of Jade Palace didn't come to the area controlled by the sect. They felt that they couldn't help, so they left first. Just as they left, you sent this dark space stone over." Senior Brother Sun on the side also said, "This dark space stone is so huge, I'm afraid that our sect's Laozu will be interested in it. Being able to get this stone is mainly due to Junior Brother Lu's contribution. When the time comes, Laozu might get a reward." Lu Ping didn't care about the reward of this dark space stone. After all, without Qi Zitsai and the others' help, Lu Ping was afraid that it would be difficult for him to get away. Besides, the sect's reward was nothing for Lu Ping's current net worth. But when he heard that his sect's Laozu might get a reward, Lu Ping's heart was still burning. Laozu's reward was the best of the best. After saying goodbye to Qi Zitsai and the others, only Miza Palace had not been opened yet. Lu Ping decided to go out and try his luck. This time, Lu Ping came to the east. This place was very close to the demon cultivator's forces. A few 100 feet away from Lu Ping was the area occupied by Jin Young Master and his men. The primordial giant crocodile had already occupied another area with his men. Naturally, they wanted to get more treasures from the Qixing Palace. When Lu Ping arrived, he had already received news that the mystic armor-like treasures that the Seven Stars Palace spat out were mostly mystic treasures. Only a few of them were top-grade mystic treasures, and some of them even had the potential to be upgraded into mystic treasures. There was even a top-grade cauldron that was taken by a rogue cultivator and was now being hunted down. Lu Ping naturally knew who the rogue cultivator who had obtained a top-level pill furnace was, but since he was being chased, Lu Ping was naturally very happy. It would be best if that person had already been killed, and the pill furnace had fallen into the hands of someone else. On the way here, Lu Ping was afraid of attracting the attention of Jin Young Master, so he took off the mask on his face. To be honest, although Lu Ping was eager to fight with Jin Young Master, but Lu Ping was very clear that he was far from being Jin Young Master's opponent. Not to mention the cultivation level of core forging stage, even if he couldn't display his full strength in the Qixing Palace, he could still casually throw out more than 500 sword lights. This level of swordsmanship was far from what Lu Ping could achieve. Several items made a sharp whistling sound in the sky, shooting in all directions. Unfortunately, the position where Lu Ping was located was once again empty. Lu Ping could clearly see that this time, there was a jade bottle flying in the direction of Zhenling, and inside it should be a medicinal pill, while Xian Lingsek's direction was empty. It seemed that this time, excluding the treasures that Lu Ping, Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu had obtained, Zhenling had obtained 6 treasures, which was one more than Xian Lingsek's. When the Star Hall opened for the last time, the number of cultivators left in the surroundings was only more than half of the original number. After Miza Hall opened, more than half of the cultivators who were fighting had left. Lu Ping was just about to turn around and leave, when suddenly his whole body trembled. Something's wrong. Miza Hall had only spat out 6 treasures this time. How could it be missing one? Previously, everyone was used to the situation of 7 treasures flying out of the 7 Stars Hall at the same time, and after the treasures flew out, the cultivators only cared about whether there were treasures flying in their direction, and ignored the treasures flying in other directions. Naturally, it was impossible for them to know how many treasures had been spat out from the Star Hall. Lu Ping turned around and looked around, and sure enough, he found that many cultivators had become vigilant. Obviously, they were also aware of this problem, but no one would say it out loud, so as not to attract the cultivators who had left. At this moment, Mizang Hall seemed as if it was choked by too much food. Suddenly, there was a loud noise, as if someone was coughing violently. Then, 12 round pearls, each 3 inches in size, shot out from Mizang Hall towards the direction between Lu Ping and the Jin Young Master. The appearance of the 12 pearls seemed to have suddenly ignited the enthusiasm of the nearby cultivators, and the strangely calm atmosphere suddenly boiled with blood. No matter if their cultivations were high or low, no matter if they were close by or far away, no matter if they were old or young, after experiencing the disappointment of not obtaining anything from the opening of Miza Hall, everyone took these 12 pearls as their last chance, and they wanted to take a gamble. The east side of the Seven Stars Hall suddenly turned into a chaotic battlefield, and there were many cultivators who had not left from other directions. All the cultivators could do was to attack everyone around them, and at the same time, try to protect themselves as much as possible. Everyone except themselves was an enemy. Raging waves hitting the shore sword art. Lu Ping displayed the raging waves hitting the shore sword art, which was the best at fighting in a chaotic battle, maintaining the offensive pressure on the surrounding cultivators, and moving as far as possible in the direction of the pearls. The best way to display this sword art was still to use two swords. Lu Ping could not help but miss the twin-winged swords that were shattered by Jin Young Master. A dark cloud tightly wrapped Lu Ping in it, covering Lu Ping's water curtain Heavenly Flower. 2 jade blood needles were buckled in his left hand, and a small silver jade-colored landslide was placed in his sleeve. At the same time, in Lu Ping's storage ring, there was a water tornado talisman that could only be used once. It was Lu Ping's last trump card. Chapter 181. If one were to look down from a higher vantage point in the seven-star skies, they would see 3 cultivators pushing back or breaking away from the cultivators blocking their path. They were rushing towards the pearls at their fastest speed. Of the 3 cultivators who were rushing forward, one of them, a cultivator in golden embroidered robes, moved forward in the most extravagant manner. Hundreds of sword beams shot out like hundreds of fish, darting into the midst of the cultivators and wreaking havoc everywhere, turning all the cultivators in his path into corpses. A cultivator was like a gust of wind. Sometimes, it was like a gentle breeze, sometimes it was like a cool breeze, sometimes it was like a violent gale, and sometimes it was like a raging whirlwind. All the cultivators who tried to stop him, whether they were human or demonic cultivators, were left far behind. The last cultivator brandished his sword like a surging wave. The waves behind him pushed the waves in front of him forward, constantly maintaining a strong pressure on the cultivators who tried to block his path, never stopping. The golden-robed cultivator moved the fastest. In the blink of an eye, he had already killed his way out of the encirclement. He raised his head just in time to see 12 sparkling pearls flying towards him. Even though he was a core-forging enlightened master, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of joy on his face. The golden-robed young master swept his sword, as if he had cast a huge net in the sky to capture the 12 pearls. At this moment, a flying sword swept over with a gust of wind, blowing the huge net in the sky to a halt. A white-robed, white-faced, and handsome cultivator had already arrived with the wind. The golden-robed young master looked at Ouyang Wei Jian with interest and said, "These days, I've heard several rumors about Xian Ling sect's Ouyang Wei Jian's powerful swordsmanship. Today, I would like to see the strength of the North Sea's younger generation." The flying sword in the young master's hand shook, and the huge net that was woven by the sword lights in the sky was blocked by the flowing wind sword. But at this time, the net suddenly scattered, just like a school of fish in the sea. The huge net disintegrated and turned into scattered sword lights, which then gathered towards Ouyang Wei Jian. The arrogant Ouyang Wei Jian was really shocked this time. Originally, although he was not an opponent of the golden-robed young master, he was confident that he could exchange a few moves with the golden-robed young master. However, after the sword net disintegrated, Ouyang Wei Jian suddenly found that each of the more than 500 sword lights seemed to have a trace of spirituality. Unlike the other golden-robed young master's sword lights, each sword light of the golden-robed young master seemed to be looking for its own attack position, attack direction, and even control its own attack speed and timing. Just as Ouyang Wei Jian was forced back by the golden-robed young master's sword, the golden-robed young master once again grabbed the 12 pearls in the sky. This time, Ouyang Wei Jian had no way to stop the golden-robed young master. At this moment, a strange one-horned water flood dragon suddenly appeared in front of the golden-robed young master. The water flood dragon opened its mouth and issued a silent roar before rushing towards the golden-robed young master. The golden-robed young master's face finally became serious. He swung the sword in his hand, and the swordfish that were besieging Ouyang Wei Jian suddenly split into half and surrounded the water flood dragon. Although the water flood dragon destroyed the swordfish with its mouth and tail, but the ants could bite an elephant to death. In a moment, the water flood dragon once again turned into a pool of flowing water. The Qinghan sword spun in the air and returned to Lu Ping's hand. The golden-robed young master who was interrupted looked at Lu Ping with a smile and said, "Sure enough, it's you, your swordsmanship has made great progress." Lu Ping replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "This is all thanks to the golden-robed young master." While speaking, a whirlwind suddenly rolled up beside the two of them. The swordfish that were besieging Ouyang Wei Jian suddenly lost control and was sucked into the whirlwind, shattering one after another. Ouyang Wei Jian raised his sword and looked at Lu Ping at his side, but didn't speak. He just stared at the golden-robed young master in front of him. Both of them knew that among the three people present, the golden-robed young master was the strongest, and he was also a demon cultivator. Even if the two of them had an old grudge against each other, if they were to fall out at this moment, not only would they not be able to snatch the pearls, but if the golden-robed young master took the opportunity to kill them, it would be a big loss for them. "Ha ha!" The golden-robed young master suddenly laughed and said, "At this moment, the two most outstanding human cultivators in the 7 stars sky actually want to join hands to deal with this young master. This young master also wants to compare swordsmanship with you too." As soon as the voice of the golden-robed young master fell, the long sword in his hand made a circle, and finally used a more formal sword move. Lu Ping's expression was dignified. Lu Ping had seen the golden-robed young master's moves before, but this time it was very formal, and it was obvious that he was going to go all out. Although Ouyang Wei Jian didn't have the experience of fighting with the golden-robed young master before, but his vision was naturally not bad. The flowing wind sword trembled in his hand, as if it had turned into a silver stream of air, while Ouyang Wei Jian's right hand seemed to strangely grasp the body of the wind. The 648 sword lights divided into two, besieging Lu Ping and Ouyang Wei Jian. It was indeed a siege. The 324 sword lights, each with a spiritual nature, were like a school of piranhas in the ocean, swarming towards their prey, but there was a clear hierarchy. Lu Ping knew that the golden-robed young master hadn't used his full strength before, but he didn't expect that his swordsmanship had already reached such a level. Not only did he divide his sword into more than 600 sword lights, but he was also only one step away from the highest realm of refining the sword into complexity of 1296 sword lights. Moreover, more than 600 sword lights all had a spiritual nature. Sword light spiritualization. This was one of the prerequisites to reach the realm of sword practice as one. Only by making each of the sword flashes have their own spirituality could all 1296 sword flashes be combined into one. Only then would one be able to achieve sword practice as one with the sword art psychic. More than 600 sword lights of the golden-robed young master had a spiritual nature, so as long as his sword lights were divided again, he could reach the realm of refining the sword into unity. Although Ouyang Wei Jian could also combine 81 sword lights into one, but his swordsmanship was just honing one sword light into a spiritual nature, and then turning this sword light into the main sword, commanding the other 80 sword lights to combine into one, and then slowly imbuing the other sword lights with a spiritual nature. Although this was also very powerful, it was obviously incomparable to the swordsmanship of the golden-robed young master. Lu Ping merged his aura qi with the cloudy sky, and combined it with the Qinghan sword to display the most powerful thousand snow sword art that Lu Ping had mastered so far, and tried his best to resist the encirclement of the golden-robed young master. On the other side, Ouyang Wei Jian danced the 18 merry wind sword art into a whirlwind, throwing the swordfish far away from the whirlpool, but the golden swordfish were not any better than Lu Ping. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.